everybody, it's your boy Architect the Dreamer, and I'm here with a brand new series that I am so stoked to bring to you guys that I am calling ATD Presents Between the Lines. This is something that I've been thinking about doing for a while. It's something that I actually did an iteration of years ago where I get to talk to musicians, artists, reactors now, and really just talk about music, because that's kind of why we're all here. That's why you guys watch my channel. That's why you guys watch other reaction channels, is we all feel this love for music on a deep personal level. And I wanted to have a platform to shine some light on reactors who a lot of times are the ones talking about the music but don't really get a chance to talk about themselves or kind of their influences and backgrounds, and then also independent artists who are trying to kind of get their stuff out there. And that kind of brings us to my very first guest, which is a guy who is becoming a really good friend of mine. His name is Ben. He goes by RageCxrcus. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you so much for having me on your pilot episode. It's quite the risk, but I'll do my best, man.
Absolutely. And what's cool is I talk about like giving a platform for independent artists, and that's exactly what you did. That's how we connected. I ended up coming across your reaction channel on YouTube. And there were a few different people that I reached out to and said, hey, I've got this song that's coming out. I'm trying to kind of get some traffic with it, and I would love to get like unbiased opinions from people that are not in my circle, but who understand music and who understand the kind of music that I'm creating. And you were one of the first people to respond to me and be like, hell yeah, dude, absolutely. And you ended up reacting to my song Stuck Inside the Shadows, which I put out a few years ago. And from that point on, you and I have kind of stayed in touch. And to be honest, you're one of the big inspirations to me for actually starting my reaction channel. What you've been able to do in the community, you've been able to create over the last year and a half to 2 years, but really this last year, your growth has been insane. I think you just passed the 10K subscriber mark on YouTube, which is amazing, and congratulations on that.
Thank you, man. You've been going through some growth too. I've been seeing it, dude. Like every other week, it's just like you're like another like 1,000 up. I'm like, God damn, this kid's killing it right now. Hell yeah, dude.
I'm certainly trying. Man. I appreciate that. But yeah, so that's why I'm here and why I want to do this series, show, whatever you want to call it. And I came up with the name Between the Lines just because I think it's really fitting for really kind of when you think about the way that us as reactors, we dissect music and we dissect lyrics. A lot of times we're looking for that stuff that's between the lines. We're looking for the nuances and we're looking for the subtle things that maybe people who are just throwing it on in their car aren't necessarily going to pick up or point out. And I think the same can apply for us as people. I think there's a lot of times where those of us who are, I guess, online, have an online presence, a lot of times people get an idea for who we are, but they only really see these small little portions of a 10-minute, 15-minute video, and they only see it in the context of I'm reacting to this thing that's in front of me. And so I'm so stoked to have you here. And I just want to kind of start off with like, what was your childhood like when it comes to listening to music and the effect that music had on you as you were kind of growing up?
Oh man. So it might get a little rough here.
That's okay.
So like when it came to the childhood, like there was like some good parts. Like obviously we have like, the typical memories for like, holidays and everything, but like there was a lot of dark periods in my childhood. And between both like my mom and dad, they have like completely different tastes in music, but I always drifted into like, the Linkin Parks, I'm from Springfield, Mass, so we have Stained out here. We have Godsmack. So it's like anything angry, anything angry that would help just kind of process it. And, it kind of like helped channel some grounding, some foundation for me, there was a lot of times where, like my mom and like my stepdad, like it got like really rough for a little bit. So it's, you know, the typical thing that you'd see in the movies where, you know, you see the kid turn the stereo up a little bit. And, you know, from that moment you start really like listening. And I think like during that time is like when I was really kind of starting to get engulfed in more lyrics rather than like how it sounded, how, you know, the shreddage sounded, how like, you know, people would beat the shit out of the cymbals, you know. That's kind of like when I started looking like super inward to music, and it like kind of laid that like I said, that foundation, but it also kind of brought me back, you know, down a little bit. And it kind of like helped explain things and like situations that I couldn't understand then.
Almost like a grounding.
And a lot more of an easier way to understand it, you know?
Like something that we like keep you grounded and kind of like,
you know, something that just kind of brings you back when you're starting to drift off a little too far, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think you and I are too far off age-wise. You're coming up on 30, is that correct?
Yep, November I'll be 30.
Okay, awesome. I'm 35, so I got a few years on you, but you still grew up in the generation where we went to the store and we bought CDs and we flipped them open and took the booklets out and we sat down and just like read the lyrics as we put it on our CD player and listened to it from front to back. For you, I mean, I'm going to let you guide how much of your childhood and your background that you want to share. But for me, like, I found solace in music when my life was chaos, when everything else was like falling apart, when I felt more alone than I ever had. And I mean, not to get super heavy right from the jump, but like I started having suicidal ideation like before I was even 10 or 11 years old because of just like the shit that I was dealing with at home, along with like I was perpetually bullied for most of my childhood. I'm 6'4", 240 pounds now, but I was the runt growing up.
Wait, did you say you're 6'4", 240, dude? I'm 5'8", I think like 184 or something like that, dude.
So I could bench press you.
That is two opposite ends of the spectrum. How's the air up there, man? Good.
It's a little bit thinner. But I was a runt growing up, and so I was the one that always got picked on. And I remember multiple times going home after just a terrible day at school and grabbing one of those albums. I specifically, this is going to be a throwback, but I specifically remember Satellite from POD. I don't know if you remember that record. It came out in 2000. And I remember sitting in my room and like just listening to that on repeat and just going through and like trying to memorize the lyrics. For you, what were some of those albums? What were some of those bands that like you were just like, they were your go-tos?
All right, so it's actually these albums even to this day still are on repeat. You know, for obvious reasons. You know, Hybrid Theory, obviously, like every single metalhead, every rock and roll kid, they could be like, "Oh, I don't like Linkin Park now." That's fine, but at one point you fucking worship them. So, Hybrid Theory, Meteora, Break the Cycle from Stained. I would 100% say, "Ooh, fuck." I just had it. Iowa by Slipknot.
Okay.
Iowa by Slipknot. The Papa Roach album, was it Infest or something like that? The Papa Roach album with the cockroach on it?
Yes,
I think. Or something like that.
That had scars on it too, right? It was that era of them.
And Leave a Whisper by Shinedown. Those are like the top albums that are still like even on and I would also say Sound of Madness and like the later going towards my teens that really helped my like with my adolescence.
Sound of Madness, I think I was 18 when that album came out, and I was obsessed with that for a while. That was like an era where it was like I had Shinedown, Breaking Benjamin, 3 Days Grace, and Chevelle was my rotation with a little bit of like Disturbed and some other things in there.
Oh my God, I hate myself. How am I not mentioning 1X? How am I not mentioning Phobia? How am I not mentioning The Sickness and 10,000? Dude, I'm a bad
Diary of Jane,
yeah, I'm a bad fan, bro.
No, I think a lot of times it's we forget more music than like we could even, because there's so, even now, like I'll be listening to Spotify and something will come up and it'll be like, oh my God, I got an ad on Facebook today that Cartel is going on a 20th anniversary tour for their album Chroma. And I'm like, I was in high school when that album came out. Like, I have never felt more old in my entire life than to know that that album is 20 years old.
Dude. Oh, so like you're saying that, right? So I work in conjunction with Better Noise Music, who like has a Funeral Portrait, fucking Five Finger, all them on whatever. So um fucking Five Finger Death Punch has a volume 1 and a volume 2 coming out of their best of 20 years of Five Finger Death Punch, and all the songs are re-recorded. And I'm like, dude, I remember when half of these songs fucking dropped.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild, man. We're getting old.
It's and even like another band, Anne Berlin, just dropped an entire remake of Never Take Friendship Personal with Matty Mullins from Memphis Mayfire. So like we're getting old, man. And like we're the old heads now. God, I know we don't want to admit it, but we kind of are.
We're there.
So music, it sounds like for you, obviously music has been like a huge part of your life, like from a very early age. Is it something that you were just kind of like a listener and like had that appreciation for it? I don't know if we've ever had this conversation. Are you a musician at all? Like, do you play music or sing or anything?
So I do sing. Okay. I was actually classically trained.
No shit, me too.
Street music. I knew what solfege was. I knew I knew a lot of things because I was in a cathedral choir for I think like 7-8 years. And
I sang Italian for my final.
I sang in Latin. I've sang in African. I've sang in Chinese. Like I've sang in a bunch of different languages for the Catholic Church, and you know, because of that, it gave me such a fruitful experience. But I also grew up in a very Filipino musically inclined family. Like we had 2 grand pianos downstairs in our basement. Obviously I didn't know any better growing up, but I played violin for 2 years. But obviously with metal music, the game's changed. There's so much when it comes to metal and rock music, there is so much more creativity I feel like can go in it than any other genre, because you can blend anything in today's subgenres and make something explosive that nobody's ever heard before, and it's with classical music and certain other genres, there's a ceiling. There's a ceiling there, but with rock and metal, it is ever so evolving. And I think that's where I started, kind of having a playground in it. I've been in bands, growing up, but unfortunately, I guess music wasn't like my path, but I knew that music was going to have something to do with it.
Yeah,
if that
I love
makes
that.
Sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I had a weird path in music. I've been singing in church since I was 5. Like there are videos of me singing This Little Light of Mine in front of church when I was 5 years old. and my dad was in the music industry. And so I've always kind of grown up around music, and I started playing guitar when I was a kid and kind of did that in and out, as kids do, right? Like, we don't really understand discipline. We don't understand how much practice is involved in doing those kind of things.
Money goes into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it was really like late high school where I started playing guitar again. And then I was not involved in anything musical related in high school. And
really?
Yeah. And which I say that, and a lot of people get like super surprised.
Like 6'4", so
well,
I mean, it's like sports.
I played basketball. And then I ended up going on and playing some college basketball, and just for like a really small Christian school. It wasn't anything crazy, but I had a bunch of injuries, and I tore my ACL and MCL and some things like that. And so it very quickly, I realized sports athletics, it's probably not going to be my path. And so I kind of switched gears. And so I ended up going to college as a vocal major with a journalism minor. And that was something that I kind of like continued. And then I was in college for a little bit, and I just realized that like that was not for me. Like, I'm such a hands-on person with anything that I do. So I dropped out and I started working, but I continued making music. So I played and toured a little bit with bands in my late teens and early 20s, and kind of did the whole like sex, drugs, and rock and roll thing. And then walked away from music for a while and came back in 2019, which is when I started making music again. But the world was so different at that point. And and there was also a lot more at your disposal. So I started kind of teaching myself how to make things, and then kind of went down that path, obviously, being an artist myself. But it's funny to think about like those early years where it's like, man, I wish I could go and tell my 14-year-old self, like, stop putting the guitar down, like just keep practicing, keep playing it, because I feel like I'd be in such a different place. But so outside of music, like what are some of the things that you really either now or like throughout your life you've kind of found yourself gravitating to as far as things that you enjoy, things that you like to do for fun?
So, like a lot of people don't know is that for the last, what year is it? 2025? Holy shit. So since like 2014, like I've been doing tattoos. So like,
Oh,
that's something a
no
lot of people don't
way.
know. Yeah,
That's
a lot of people don't know
badass.
that.
Dude, we need to meet up and I need to get a
Absolutely.
Rage Circus original.
I've done hundreds at this point,
Okay.
over the years.
Yeah.
But there's that. My biggest passion, and I would even say this is honestly, I don't know if I could say it arguably, but my biggest passion, I think, is movies, film, being,
Hell yeah.
through the YouTube channel, ironically enough, I have to give YouTube a shout out because as much as I absolutely slander this platform every chance I get, it's bad. Like, it's like bad. Could be a hate speech. Like, it's bad. So like I got to give it a shout out because YouTube has given me I started in 2020. I fell off for a little bit. Life happens. The pandemic was wild.
Oh, yeah.
But that's kind of also where I zoned in. That was just the years of creativity because you couldn't do shit. You couldn't go anywhere. Everything was fucking closed.
Yeah.
So like I kind of honed in on that, and it's since then, all of these bands that I fell in love with, I'm friends with a lot of them now.
That's
like
wild.
I'm, I got Brent Smith from Shinedown, who is my fucking musical idol. Follows me on Instagram. The band follows me on Instagram.
That's so cool.
Nothing More is the first band that ever shared any of my things and opened that working relationship with Better Noise Music. And because of that, last year, and this is all going to come full circle into the movie talk.
Yeah.
Last year, I met my buddy Brad, who's one of like the nicest fucking guys on the planet, and it's weird because like I almost like literally, not that I just literally look up to him because everybody's fucking taller than me. Let's face it, but like he's younger than me by like a year or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I've never met a subscriber offline, that I don't know in real life, and he hit me up one day. He's like, "Hey man, look, you don't know me, but I've been a fan of your channel for years, and I'm going to Sleep Token. I have an extra ticket. Do you want to go?"
Oh shit.
Immediately, I'm like, "Fuck yeah, dude! I could get murdered. I don't give a shit." Fuck yeah. And it's during like the hype of Take Me Back to Dinner. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take this risk. It could either go really bad or it could go really good.
You could take me back to Eden.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And it turned out to be a lovely experience. And that following year, or that following month, rather, like literally later that following month, he hits me up. Mind you, he works on movies.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know the scope. So if you know me on a personal level, you would know my love for The Walking Dead. Like on a personal level, like Walking Dead, fucking everything. My cat's name is literally fucking Negan, bro.
That's amazing.
He's actually right fucking there. That's funny.
That's amazing.
So he hits me up and like,
I don't know if you can see. I don't think you can. Now I kind of have it to the side. I have the first two compendiums sitting on my table.
Well, this is gonna be a fun story.
Yes.
He hits me up. He's like, "Hey, so I'm not on the show, but I have more friends that are on the show than aren't. Do you want to go visit the set? Of Dead City season 2, and they're filming. And mind you, it's Maggie and Negan show.
Yeah.
So JDM is on set. So I'm like, fucking obviously I want to go.
Yeah.
June 18th, 2024. One of the greatest days of my fucking life.
He's like, I've got it on my calendar. I mark it. I celebrate it every year.
At this point, I might, because like literally we got to this set, and the moment I step across the don't cross sign, I'm in this world that I love so much. Like everything around me is fucking fake. The trash on the ground, fake. The flag up there, fake. That trash can they told me to get my fucking hands off of, fake. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I almost just threw away my Gatorade in this trash can, bro. And I got to meet Jeff that day. He's a really nice guy. It's funny how I ran into him the first time, and I thought he kind of swayed me, and it's honestly kind of horrible. I went across to go to the tent because we were guests on the set that day. So I'm like, fucking cool. We're watching shit get filmed. I'm like, this is the greatest day of my life already.
Yeah.
I went into the.
Was that your first time ever being on like a film set?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is my first time being on the film set, and it's like my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
So like I'm touching fucking
That's
everything.
wild.
Like if anybody was genuinely doing their job that day, they would have had me thrown off the fucking set immediately because I was touching everything. I was taking pictures of everything. Like I have a picture of me, my buddy Brad, and my buddy George in the church with the background blurred out because I couldn't fucking show it anywhere, and now I can finally show it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I went into this tent and I went to go get water because it was 103 smoldering degrees that day.
This is in Atlanta, right?
Shorts. No, this is in Mass. They're filming in Mass.
Okay.
They filmed it in Mass.
Interesting. Because the original show was filmed in Atlanta for the most part, right? Okay.
Yeah, it takes place in New York, but they got the film permits for Mass and like just put like New York Post things just to kind of make it look like it was New York.
Yeah.
And I go into this tent and I get water. And mind you, I have not seen Jeff yet because they're like, yeah, they've been in this fucking one room.
I love that you're calling
hours.
him Jeff. I've only ever referred to him as Jeffrey Dean Morgan as full name. Even back from like Supernatural and like in Watchmen and whatever. Like it's always just been Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
That's another funny thing because this is the realization I came to when this thing happened. So I went and I got this water in this tent. And I step out of this tent and I don't want to be in people's way. So like I step to the side closest to this brick wall, right?
Yeah.
And I'm facing this brick wall now, like kind of just doing my thing. And then all of a sudden I just get this fucking hit in my face of just cigarette smoke. And I'm like, holy shit. And mind you, like I used to smoke heavy. So like, you know, it doesn't bother me like that. Like I vape now, whatever. But I get this just hit of fucking cigarette smoke. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I don't think anybody was smoking. And I just look to my left in between the tent and the fucking the wall, hiding in there on a break. I look over, it's fucking Jeffrey Dean Morgan, bro. And I'm just like, I didn't know how to process it because I'm just like, the first thing that flew out of my mouth wasn't like, oh, I'm sorry, man, was, it's a bad time to ask you for a picture, huh? It's a bad time.
Just blow that smoke in my mouth. Come on.
Dude, I just froze. He's like, I'm hiding, bro. I'm like, it's okay. So I backed up and I'm like, one, it's so weird hearing that voice.
Oh, it's an iconic voice.
In person. Oh, yeah. And it's so weird. And I'm just like, I'm processing this.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh fuck, I'm not gonna be able to, I'm gonna be known as that dude that accidentally ruined his fucking moment as he's trying to get away from people. I feel horrible at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously hours down, he came out, he's helping the crew shit. Then he's like, all right, guys, like, you know, I'll take a picture of the guys, but make it fast. And I was the first person that ran the fuck up. I'm like, yeah, dude. And because of that, you know, like I got to be around the things that I love. And that's kind of like the full circle moment, you know, like I got to immerse myself in honestly genuine happiness. Like nothing in that moment mattered. And because of YouTube, you know, it wouldn't have happened any other way, you know.
Yeah,
so, like,
that's wild. That's wild that like literally just a person commenting on a video resulted in that. But let's rewind a little bit because I'm a huge movie buff as well. I don't know if I'm like to the point of being a cinephile or anything like that. But I absolutely love movies. For you, like what's the root of your love of film and like kind of where did that love start and what was the thing that really captured you and like made you be like, this art form is so cool?
Oh man, damn! You're asking the best questions. This might be one of my favorite things I've ever done. Because like, dude, I love movies to the point where like the moment like somebody talks about it, it's ears perch right the fuck up. Like I want to be a part of that. So since that's like a multi-part question, to answer the first part, what got me like loving movies so much? Lord of the Rings, 100%. That is my favorite franchise.
It's the greatest trilogy of all time.
Thank you.
Hands down.
A lot of people will say fucking Star Wars, but they can honestly suck a dick, respectfully. Respectfully.
I love Star Wars. And but the thing is sometimes less is more. And while I don't think the Hobbit trilogy was a great trilogy, I still found some fun in it. But the thing with Star Wars is like there's so much good in Star Wars, but it's so spotty and inconsistent. Like Andor is one of the greatest shows on television I've watched in the last couple of years. But then you've got some other stuff that has come out that's like, what are we even doing here? But the way that every movie in the Lord of the Rings trilogy just got better, like each of the 3 movies. Were you able to like go to the midnight releases and watch them that way?
So I couldn't go to the midnight releases because I was young, but I have seen every single movie in theaters when it dropped. I was old enough for that, and I owned every single goblet. I actually have my Aragorn goblet hang in the box still on my fucking shelf from the OG series. Like I didn't buy it off eBay. I still own that motherfucker, so it still turns on.
That's such a great intro into film too, because like I think there's something that fantasy and sci-fi does that no other genre of film can do, and it's the ability to take you out of yourself, out of your own world, and put you into something that could be real but isn't, that could be the future, that could be I mean, we could look at the Lord of the Rings and say, well, that could have been what things were like 100,000 years ago. Or we can look at something like Star Wars and say, this could be where things end up 100,000 years from now. But it's all just creativity. Like you can watch comedies, you can watch dramas, you can watch horror movies, and a lot of that stuff is very, horror movies aside, but a lot of that stuff is kind of grounded in reality. And I think one of the things I love about fantasy and sci-fi is that it allows you to kind of suspend that reality and just let your imagination run wild in a way that those other genres. So for me, like Blade Runner is my favorite movie of all time. And it was
OG or like
OG
with Harrison Ford. Got you.
And cyberpunk is my favorite subgenre of movies.
I love cyberpunk.
And so that was when I fell in love with that. And I have arguments with people all the time on both ends of the spectrum with Blade Runner, because you've got people who view this as like a masterpiece and like just like a once in a lifetime piece of cinema, which I'm on that side. And then you have other people that watch it and they're like, this is so boring and slow and it slogs on and whatever. And I'm like, okay, but like you've got to, and I love getting into conversations about that. But that's the thing that film allows you to do, is like, the reason I love cyberpunk is not because of the cool visuals, not because of the future technology and the cool flying cars and all this other kind of stuff. It's the philosophical side of things of like, what does it mean to be human? Like that's the kind of stuff that questions, those kind of questions are what's being asked by fantasy and sci-fi.
So I get the strongest feeling that you're about to agree with what I say here.
Okay.
The people that do not like Zack Snyder's movies do not truly understand cinema.
I'm very torn on the Zack Snyder thing, because I personally love the visual aspect of it. I think it's something.
Okay.
Yes. So like even like a movie like Sucker Punch is not a great movie from a writing perspective, from a plot perspective.
That's fair.
But from a visual perspective, that movie is
one of the
candy.
greatest things ever.
That movie is candy. And I have always been one of the biggest supporters and on the side of, I think Man of Steel is a
one
borderline
of all time.
Borderline perfect Superman movie. And for me, if we want to tie this into comic books a little bit, I find myself being drawn to books that are coming out on, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but that are coming out on publishers like Image and IDW and Dark Horse, where you've got things like Hellblazer, Constantine, you've got things like Saga, which is like a really, really popular book that came out on Image, which is kind of like R-rated Star Wars is kind of what it gets like kind of pushed as. But I like it for the grittiness of it. I like it for the emotion side of it. I like it for the relatability of like the relation, like Henry Cavill and why am I blanking on his name? Guy from Yellowstone. The dad. He played Pa Kent.
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, yes. Their relationship in that movie I thought was like so well fleshed out, and you could feel the relationship that Clark had with Pa Kent, and that I think some of the visual things that Zack Snyder has done have been 300 was a groundbreaking movie. 300 like the stuff that was done in that movie from a visual perspective is incredible. The place that I get kind of split on is I don't think Zack Snyder is the greatest writer. I think Zack Snyder is a very good pulled back, I'm going to look at a big picture kind of a thing. And
he's a great cinematographer.
He's a big idea guy. He's not a detail guy, you know, and I think there's a place for that.
I would argue that. See, that's where I would argue that. Like, I think Zach understands lore on a deeper level that a lot of people don't. And like, especially when it comes to like where he's basing these time period pieces. Like, for example, I would argue that Batman versus Superman was a phenomenal fucking movie, especially based where his Batman was.
The Zack Snyder cut of that is so much better than the theatrical version.
Especially Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Justice League the Snyder cut was one of the most beautiful things and honestly well-placed stories I've ever seen in a superhero aspect.
I really enjoyed it, yeah.
But with Batman versus Superman, like, I thought that movie was money. Like, a lot of people don't, but like he was basing his Batman off of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns.
Very
like
much so.
That he was supposed to be an older, run down. His Robin's dead. He's already divorced from Selena Kyle. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of things that
Batfleck is arguably the best Batman. I'm going to say something controversial. I like a lot of the elements of this trilogy.
Yes.
I think that the Christopher Nolan Batman movies are the worst representation of both Batman and Bruce Wayne.
I am genuinely kind of shocked by that, but I can understand why you're saying it.
So as a huge Batman fan and like read comics, watched animated series, all that kind of stuff.
You got me over my desk every day, homie.
I love it. I never felt like that Batman was the detective. I never felt like he was the
Dark Knight.
Yes, it never like it. If you look at that trilogy, that iteration of Batman is its own thing, and it's very separate from anything else. And then I look at Ben Affleck's Batman, and I go, I've seen that Batman before. I've seen the scene where he's fighting all those dudes. The warehouse scene is,
oh my God,
absolute perfection. And I just feel like Christian Bale was so stiff in that, and they wanted to make that movie so like down to earth and gritty, but I think it was to their detriment. And again, I think The Dark Knight, I think Heath Ledger, I think like there's so much fantastic stuff in those movies, but there's also, if you want to just take the character of Batman, like I feel like even Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, I feel like was more of a Bruce Wayne than Christian Bale's was. So I know I'm probably going to get people roast me in the comments, because I know that people view that Nolan trilogy as like
Mona Lisa,
as like this is like the epitome of greatness, but I feel like there are so many things that are it's devoid of the spirit of the original comics in a way that I think that Ben Affleck and even Henry Cavill's Superman, that there's aspects of their characters that feel more authentic to who those characters are to me.
Man, so the greatest thing about being a movie guy is I love these conversations. I could talk about this shit for hours and be completely content.
All of our watchers right now are like, wait, did we just like sign up for a movie podcast?
Yeah, you just signed up for a movie podcast. Sorry. So I love that, because that is a very good argument that a lot of people do not like to talk about. If we're really going to get down to the nitty gritty, and you can feel free to cut me off at any time, but if I'm saying like the best Batman that I've seen on screen yet, I'm going with Pattinson. Pattinson.
I loved the Batman movie. I thought that was I honestly, if I remember correctly, I walked away from that, and I think I gave that movie like an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. I thought it was phenomenal. I thought Colin Farrell's Penguin was amazing. Best live action Penguin ever.
Period.
And it's not close. And I'm the person that sat through and watched every season of Gotham. I'm the person that like, you know, like I've watched every iteration of this stuff that like that you there can. Is. And I think that the detriment of that is going to be how long it's taking for it. Like Matt Reeves dropped out. And Matt Reeves, like that was his whole vision behind the first one.
That actually got confirmed untrue.
Oh, did it really?
He's still very attached to the project. We don't know what capacity yet, but he's still very much attached to the project.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better.
They want to start having the filming process by the end of this year.
Okay.
The reason why I love Pattinson's Batman so much, and I would arguably say that he's the best. Well, one, I think the advantage that he has, where it's kind of a handicap, but it kind of works to his advantage, is it's year two. It's year two Batman. He's only been doing this for 2 years. Yeah. He's still figuring out the line between far and just enough, you know, perfect, imperfect.
Yeah.
He's still like on the fence of if he still even wants to kill, bro. Like and his detective skills, the way that they're doing it with like the sclera contact lenses, you know, having him record everything. Him putting on sunglasses in the middle of the day because he's not used to the sun. Like it
felt like a noir movie, and like that's what I want out of my Batman. And I honestly wish that like we could have gotten a Ben Affleck Batman movie where like we could have gotten something where it's centered around him, and like because every movie that he was in was like not necessarily his movie. Like even Batman v Superman was like kind of his movie, but it wasn't fully his movie. And I do agree with you. I think Robert Pattinson's, first of all, can we just give Robert Pattinson his flowers? He's an unbelievable actor. I think people, this is funny because my girlfriend, whether unironically or ironically, one of her favorite franchises is Twilight. And we watch it and we laugh about it and we joke about it all the time.
I like it. Yeah.
But I think so many people only see Robert Pattinson as that, and they don't see The Lighthouse, and they don't see like all these other
High Life, Good Time.
It's over for film junkies, but I think the general audience doesn't realize that like this man is like Mickey 17 or whatever it was that just came out. Like such a great movie, such a fun movie. He's phenomenal in it. And his detective work as Batman in that movie was the best of any that I've seen so far. And it felt the most like I think that's the other reason why I love Blade Runner so much, is because it brings in those noir aspects and those like detective. And I was the kid that grew up reading Sherlock Holmes. So like I love detective stuff and mystery and like Murder on the Orient Express and like things like that, where like it keeps you guessing up until the very end and then there's a twist. And I felt that in the Robert Pattinson Batman.
I think another thing I liked about his movies too, that, you know, a lot of people didn't really kind of take into account in any of like the other movies other than maybe Martin Scorsese, and not Martin Scorsese, fucking Joel Schumacher and Tim Burton did, you know, they made Gotham a character in the film, like the whole backdrop, like even with Pattinson, they made it very Gotham Victoria. They shot it in Liverpool, Chicago, and I think somewhere else, I forgot where, but like they made it a character in the film because, you know, Gotham is supposed to be this like spectacle, darker side of kind of like almost like a New York, but just more on the castle rundown side, but also very dark, you know, rich area, you know, and I love that because I feel like that's something that film is missing nowadays is their setting. And that's another reason why I love the new Mad Maxes so much too, is because that's a huge character.
Oh my God. Mad Max Fury Road changed my life. That movie, I remember hearing that movie came out, and it came out to a lot of like scathing reviews. Like a lot of people like did not like it when it first came out. And so I was hesitant. I was hesitant to see it, and I went and saw it in theaters before it left. And that movie was 2.5 hours of just pure adrenaline. Like the chase scenes and the visuals and everything in that movie. Yes, the dialogue was not great, but the dialogue didn't need to be great. It wasn't, you know, John Wick is one of my favorite series of all time, and there's a lot of elements of the noir and the cyberpunk and the stuff like that in those as well.
My God, yes.
But the acting, I had this conversation with somebody recently. Those movies aren't great because of Keanu Reeves' acting. Those movies are great because of Keanu Reeves' ability to be that character, and the people that are writing these movies, they're bringing in Common, Halle Berry. You know, they're bringing in
Norman Reedus now.
Yes, Norman Reedus. These huge, even Ana de Armas, like she's a phenomenal actress, and now she's kind of like taking up that mantle, and they bring in these like powerhouse actors to place alongside of Keanu Reeves. And it, first of all, it elevates Keanu. And I think that his acting in these movies, while they're not requesting a lot from him, he's still, it feels like Keanu Reeves just is John Wick. Like if you watch interviews of Keanu Reeves and things like that, he just is John Wick without the murder. Like, without the murder. but again, that just like you're describing with the Batman, the Continental, the world that is created with the John Wick movies is its own character. They've got their own currency. They've got the whatever you want to call it, hotline, where like people are putting hits out and stuff like that. The world is its own character. And I think that's also taking it all the way back full circle to Lord of the Rings. I think that's why I fell in love with Lord of the Rings so much, is because of that world was its character, you know, like there were so many iconic visual pieces in that movie that are just architecture, that are just like the way that the world is created.
The landscape.
Like, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Going back to John Wick though, like, and honestly, this kind of like flows beautifully into the second part of that question.
Yeah.
It's amazing what a dream can do for you, especially like when you're from a no-name place. Because ironically enough, and this is actually going to be how I get into the like answering what got me to want to be a part of it. The John Wick director and the creator of John Wick, man.
Yeah. Chad Stahelski, I think is his name.
I think he still owns a house 20 minutes down the road. He's from Palmer, Mass.
Shit.
He's from Palmer, Mass. As a matter of fact, he actually did not leave here. He actually left here not too long ago. Like, he started his career not too long ago. He was a local.
That's
for a long
wild.
Time. So what got me into, you know, like dreaming about being a part of this, you know, big, giant fucking, you know, industry was the fact that, you know, I've been in short films. I've created short films. And honestly, there I can actually send you one that I'm super fucking proud of, because it's one thing to, like, you know, get a $50 Walmart camera, point it, shoot it. But it's another thing to be on a movie set and shoot for 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, you know, doing a 2-part fucking, you know, we're going to be filming this huge chunk this day. And then, you know, a few months down the line, we're filming the other chunk. You know, I've been a part of those. And those are living, you know, and I've cried on a set. I've gotten hurt on a set. I've had some of the greatest memories of my entire life on a set. And there's just something that is so cathartic and just almost spiritual about being able to put yourself in a position, because for me, it was never behind the camera. It was always in front of it. You know, like I've always brought characters that, you know, my friend Alex has brought to life. You know, shout out to him. You know, like, I've loved this idea of becoming something I'm not for 5 minutes or 3 hours, 8 hours. You know, like, I love being a part of a writer's room. I love being a part of, you know, conversations of like, you know, this is something I wanted to do. I like being a part of how do we get there? How do we do it? What can I do to help? What part am I playing? You know, what part can I tweak for you? Like, what can I do behind the camera? Like, I told Brad the other day, because Dead City Season 3 is going to be filming here in Mass real soon. And I'm signing up. So it's either I could be an extra on camera, I could be cleaning up shit. I don't care what I'm doing.
You just want to be there.
As long as I'm a part of it. And I've always loved to create. I've always loved to surround myself with creative people. And I think a lot of that is the reason why I feel like low key I'm starting to lose a lot of friends, is because I've focused on that. I've harnessed on that lately. and I've been surrounding myself with, really creative people. Like, for example, Kyle and Eric from Riker Road are some of my best friends, in real life. I've hung out with them. I have a lot of things that are with them that are lined up that aren't necessarily reactions. There's a movie fucking trilogy world thing that, Kyle's embarking on that he wants me to be a part of.
If he needs more actors.
Thing. Yeah, dude, like, here's the thing. Where are you at?
I'm in Missouri.
You're in Missouri? So how far is that from Ohio?
Southern Ohio, 5-6 hours.
Okay,
it's not bad. I mean, I was my relationship with my girlfriend started as long distance, so I was driving 7 hours both directions regularly for that. So like drive, and I love driving. I love road trips. I'll throw an audiobook on or a podcast or whatever. So driving doesn't bother me.
And like that's another thing is like Kyle is such a musical person too. Like he has his own studio in his house where he just sits down and just fucking shreds on the guitar. Like I was there in October and he just like pulled up his guitar and just starts fucking shredding some Mick Gordon. I'm like, dude, what the fuck, man? Like, so it's like not only movie wise, it's like there's so many different elements. Like Brad is a scouter, so it's like Brad can get locations. My buddy George is a cinematographer. He can shoot. My buddy Alex is a phenomenal gifted writer and cinematographer and visual effects art, like editor.
Yeah.
Kyle is another hands-on, beautiful cinematographer, incredible writer who has this whole world fleshed out.
Yeah.
And then there's the reaction channel where like I'm really close to Eric, like we game all the time. Like we're creating, stuff like this, I always surround myself with creative people now. And I think that is what got me so into this industry of creativity is because, that first time we ever turned on the camera and it was the most horrible pile of dog shit we ever filmed was in 2008.
Yeah.
And
but I don't remember who said it. And I feel like it's a fairly common quote, but it's the only way to be good at something is to suck at it first.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
and it was bad. It was bad. We did the Saw parody back in 2008 called Screwdriver. And like
Flathead or Phillips? No, I'm sorry. Terrible joke.
Our villain's name was fucking Crossword instead of Jigsaw. Like it was fucking hilarious. And the funniest thing is, when I realized this is what I wanted to do, like for the rest of my life, actually took place 9 years later. So we filmed Screwdriver.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I want to do this all the fucking time. Just because it was fun, just being in front of a camera and dicking around and being something I wasn't in front of a camera.
Yeah.
But then 9 years later, we rebooted that same fucking movie in the same fucking room from 9 years prior that looks super aged and just run down now.
Yeah.
And the moment we started filming, I just got this feeling. I'm like, dude, we've been through so much in the last 9 years, have filmed so many things that haven't even seen the light of day, things that have seen the light of day. Like we've lost communication at one point in between this time. And now we're back filming this thing that started all of it on a completely higher scale. And like now we have visual effects going into it. We have like voiceover effects going into it. We have transitions. We have like screen effects going on, actual credits. There's
dude. I love a full circle moment so much. And I'm legitimately going through a similar thing with my music right now.
Yeah.
So I recorded an acoustic folk album in 2010. Never put it out. It never the producer that I was working with at the time went off to college and we never finished it. And so we had basic guitars track, like acoustic guitar track, and we had really, really like rough vocals on it. I came across that stuff on an external hard drive about a year ago. And I had completely forgotten about it. I had no idea where it was. I thought it was lost forever. And I found it. And I messaged one of my best friends, Mikey, who I used to do a couple podcasts with. But I messaged him, and he's a huge, like, we have a huge love of like folk indie music, Noah Khan and Bon Iver and Death Cab for Cutie and like that whole like genre of music. And I said, dude, I just found these, and I played him some of them, and I was like, should I do something with these? Because like I never put them out. I now have a full-length album. It's my first full-length album that I'm putting out since 2021, coming out in July, and 5 of those songs are songs from that project that I started in 2010. And one of them is my single Down the Coast, which I put out last year. And I was able to take that and completely redo it now. And the quality of it now versus what it was back then is like, it feels so familiar, but it also feels so like renewed and refreshed, and like there's so much extra there. And hearing you talk about like what you did with this parody film, and then now you guys are coming back to it again, kind of gives me that same vibe of like, sometimes things didn't happen back then for a reason. Sometimes things didn't happen at the moment that they were conceived for a reason. That album, those songs never came out because they were shit back then, you know? Like, let's just be real. Like there's lyrical changes that I've made to them. There's melody changes that I've made to them, but the groundwork was still there. And I was able to take that and build off of that. For you in film, I know that you said that you kind of like to be in front of the camera versus kind of being behind it. How has that changed for you from that initial project to the stuff that you're doing now? And I guess like your confidence and your ability to like have a presence and disappear in those characters now versus when you first kind of started doing it.
So that's actually a really good question, dude. You're so fucking prepared. This is awesome. So when we first started, obviously, like it was just, obviously I was like 12 years old at the time, and like, I was very acquainted with the word fuck like I am now, and I would add it in every other word, like my dialogue, because we didn't have scripts.
So you were basically just creating Saw Boondock Saints is what you were doing. basically, and it was so offensive. It was so offensive. It was just like belligerent, and it's embarrassing. It's still up to this day. Like, and I'm kind of glad, because it's always nice to get that cringe moment to like, kind of humble
like
yourself a little bit.
Do that again. Yeah, not ever do that again. So obviously at first it was kind of like a joke, like we were taking around, but then we realized the joy that like it made us feel watching it back, knowing that like, dude, we have a friend that lives right down the street, who's my friend Alex, who became a very talented cinematographer because of this one idea. And like his thing was like, all right, if we could do this, what can we do next? Like, how much further can we push it? What can we get away with?
Yeah.
So at first, obviously, like it was dicking around, and then, like we filmed some things that never saw the light of day. Which was,
you knew how many songs I had finished that have never and possibly will never see the light of day.
Yeah, exactly. But like ours, like we had what we thought was like the greatest thing we ever filmed. The next morning we woke up, all of it was gone, literally not only from the hard drive, but from our fucking memory. So we couldn't even reshoot it because we don't even remember what the fuck we did. All we knew is it was gas, and we were stoked for people to see it, and nobody's ever going to see it again.
Dude, Men in Black showed up and just...
Dude, it was fucking awful, because I'm like, dude, I was so angry about it. But like, we got a trailer from the footage filmed and like edited, and that's on YouTube. But like the actual thing is just gone, bro. Like it's disappeared. And literally... So what got me like passionate about it and like, making me kind of like want to work on like the genuine ability to act came in 2017, which was 9 years later, again, ironically enough. We were filming an original movie, and it was like it's like, I think it's like 23 minutes long in runtime now. It has a ton of visual effects. Like I actually went to Alex's house, put on headphones, stood in front of a mic, and like redid my lines for clearer audio. I redubbed my own lines and everything.
Yeah.
And there was a scene we were filming, and we actually rented out a cheap hotel room, the Red Roof Inn. I don't know if like you guys have them where you're at, but it was really strange walking in with 2 women, a bunch of men, camera equipment, and everything. It looked like we were about to shoot a porno. It looked like we were about to shoot a porno.
My name's Zach. This is Miri.
Yeah, that dude, Kevin Smith is one of my fucking idols. I was actually lucky to meet
Kevin
him
Smith.
Actually at a movies.
I met him at a convention a few years ago. Well, it was probably 7 or 8 years ago now. He's the sweetest, nicest man on the planet.
Oh, fucking God, dude. And he deserves everything that he has.
Yes.
Like, that dude deserves all the success.
Agreed. Funny story, his run on the Green Arrow was the comic book that got me back into reading comics when I was a teenager.
Yeah, dude.
His run on Green, and it's what made me fall in love with the character of Green Arrow as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Kevin Smith.
Yeah, Kevin Smith is, that's actually another reason as to why this is all like a thing, because Kevin Smith actually had a lot to do with what we did for future films.
Okay.
So we were filming this scene in a hotel room, and it was kind of like a scene where me and this other guy were breaking in kind of like really quiet, and then like I have a baseball bat, and like I smack him on the stomach with it. I rip him off the bed, and like there's this whole like almost kind of like interrogation scene going on.
Mm-hmm.
We had practiced that and dry ran it maybe once.
Okay.
And it ended up looking like it could have been pulled off of an actual television show. Like the frame rate was right. The choreography that we went through all went right. The dialogue delivery was on point. And I started taking like actual influences from real characters that I love, like from television and like from comic books and from, manga, anime, and I started kind of translating it through me in some things that I started to do.
Yeah.
And that moment when I, obviously saw those things play out on screen and taking those risks and kind of actually taking the me out of the character, like taking me entirely out and like kind of putting myself in like someone's headspace. Like, all right, we're going to this room. We're after something. I'm going to be willing to do literally anything I can to get it. And I ran through with my buddy Jeff, who was playing the main character of this film we were shooting. And I'm like, listen, man.
I swear to God, if this ends up being Jeffrey Dean Morgan, no, I'm just kidding.
No.
He's like, by the way, JDM is in my movie. No,
no, dude, I am not that lucky, dude. At that point, like, I would like, you could take me out to the back of the barn and shoot me because at this point, I've lived my life.
Yeah.
So I talked to my buddy Jeff. I'm like, listen, man, I'm gonna take, like, I might do something. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it yet, but be prepared for anything. I might slap you across the face, and I might grab your hair for a second. Are you cool with that? And he was like, yeah, let's run it. So
yeah, just call me daddy first. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm like, because like he fucking he pulls in the scene, he pulls out like his wallet, like, do you want money? And I slap it out of his hands, and then I slap him across the fucking face, and I take his head and I slam it against the fucking like the dresser.
Okay.
Dude took it in stride, and he took it in stride, and then seeing it, play out on, the footage and everything as we're like looking through it, and like as we're shooting the scene, I'm like, dude, maybe we're onto something. Like, this is really fucking cool. Like, maybe like this isn't a small production. Maybe this is a lot larger than we think it is. And it really was. Like, we filmed all of the hotel scenes in February of 2017.
Okay.
And then the second half of the movie we filmed in, I think, like late July, early August of 2017.
Okay.
Because we had this transition where, so basically the film is kind of like a mix of like Alan Wake and Silent Hill.
Oh,
so
very cool.
We were doing kind of like a mixed world of that, and like kind of based a world off of like the 7 Deadly Sins. And we end up in this place called like the Hunting Grounds, and we sat there and filmed for 12 hours, and I think it was like between 98 and like 101 that day, and I'm wearing a fucking leather jacket running around screaming.
Yeah.
And some of those shots, dude, are some of the most like it was one of those things, like outer body experiences where like I cannot believe that like I was in that, and like that was me committing all of these acts, and like just the way it all looked and translated, and like the risks I took is really what molded like we're taking this up to a real level now. And like I like like I wanted to be doing these things. Like I realized right there and then that I wanted to be a storyteller.
Yeah. I love that. And that's I'm right there with you, man. And like I've always kind of been on the behind the scenes end of that. So like I've always been a writer, I've published a comic book. I have so many unpublished scripts that I've written over the years. I love writing, and I love like building. I love seeing a world in my head and like having it come out and like realizing that on paper, and then in some cases like seeing it in a comic book or whatever. And I've done voice acting. Like my only my only IMDb credit is I had a small role of a character named Caligula in Fallout New Vegas of a it was an expansion called The Frontier, and it was basically the Gladiator Arena like MC, and so like they wanted me to do like this Duke Nukem like kind of like deep voice or whatever, and I had like 30 lines, and I loved it so much. It was so much fun.
First of all, you literally lived my dream, because Bethesda is my favorite video game company, period. How the fuck did you do that?
I auditioned.
Auditioned and you got it?
Yeah, there's a site called castingcall.club or something like that, and it's like a huge site for voice acting projects. And I during that time I was trying to like get a little bit extra income, so I was doing like ads for like different like small companies and stuff where they were just asking like small, like I did like a small Subaru dealership commercial where it's like it's just my voice over this, and it was just a little bit of extra cash. And I was getting these jobs from that site, and then I found this one, and I was like, Fallout, are you fucking kidding me? And I was like, because that's my favorite of all the Fallout games.
So you're a fan of the show?
Yes. Oh, very much so,
dude.
Very much so.
This better not be the only.
If Walton Goggins does not get an Emmy, I will riot.
Bro,
I will riot.
When I respect it, Walton Goggins does not deserve an Emmy if Andrew Lincoln did not get one for playing Rick Grimes at all.
Agreed.
So no.
Well,
I'm sorry, but dude, his Rick Grimes, because of that role, I could see him being Aragorn if they ever needed.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing I will say about that is I think The Walking Dead was such a new avenue into TV when that came out, you know, like that, like The Walking Dead paved that. So I don't think that it had the respect that it should have gotten in those, especially those first like 5 seasons.
But I would argue they did the same thing with Game of Thrones, but they got Emmys. And it was the same time frame.
Yeah, but Game of Thrones paid for that stuff. No. Game of Thrones is the Drake of TV shows.
That's foul.
Am I going to get canceled for that?
That's fucking wild.
I think that Game of Thrones, I've never really been able to get into it, ironically, being such a lover of fantasy that I am. But I just, for some reason, it just didn't hit with me. Go ahead.
I thought I'd interrupt you real quick. So I was the same way. I don't know, like, you know, how much I can reveal on here without getting canceled. But so back in 2022, I was I call it experimenting. I haven't done it since 2022 because of this reason. I was experimenting with acid. Okay. And mind you, and everybody,
hydrochloric, right? No, I'm just kidding. Hydrochloric, right?
It was fucking gel tabs, bro. And I took 4 to the mouth all at once with my buddy.
You watched Game of Thrones on acid?
Coolest experience on the fucking planet. Because like, here's the thing, I was like against it. I was like, no, I will never fucking watch Game of Thrones. Like that shit looks garbage. Like you literally have brother sister fucking in the first 5 minutes of the first episode. I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
bro. I was zonked out of my mind at 3 a.m, and all my boys are like, we were on a fucking boys trip in Maine, and mind you, we were camping. We're like, we're gonna take a fuck ton of acid. We're just gonna rage the fuck out, right? No, that is the exact opposite happened. I am fucking 4 hours into this massive acid trip, and they're watching House of the Dragon because it was just dropping at the time. So I'm like, oh, this looks kind of sick. And they
House of the Dragon, I appreciate. Like and maybe it's just because I'm a Matt Smith fan and I'm a huge Doctor Who guy. So maybe that's like why I have the connection there versus like the OG series. But
gotcha. So I was like, fuck that, dude. I want some more of that shit because it was kind of fucking cool. So I'm like, all right. So I put on Game of Thrones, and I am just literally, my eyes are sucked into this screen, bro. Dragons tripping balls is the coolest fucking thing on the planet. It took me a 15-hour long intense acid trip for me to genuinely love Game of Thrones. I finished the series, bro, and it was honestly, arguably, I thought it was great. And Spider-Man No Way Home is terrifying when you're tripping balls. I will 100% confirm it is terrifying.
I have done. Fuck it, it's already out there. I've done acid once in my life. I want you to guess the circumstances that happened under. Just throw out a random guess, because I guarantee you're not even going to be in the ballpark.
Okay, so the worst case I've ever heard, and I know that it's not on this scale, so it can't hopefully be this bad, but the worst acid case I've ever heard was Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the creators of South Park, went to the fucking Oscars wearing dresses, tripping balls off of acid. And the only thing, if anybody asked them about the dresses, the only answer that they could provide was, it's a beautiful night and all the stars are out. So I'm like, dude, if that's anything near that crazy, I have no idea, but I can only imagine it was a stressful situation.
The only time I ever did acid was at a Coldplay concert on their Viva La Vida tour.
You did acid at a Coldplay show? Did you cry? I would have.
Dude. It was, because this is in the past, and I'm 12 years sober now, so I can of talk about it, but my roommate in college at the time, he got the tickets because he was a huge Coldplay fan, and I was like, I liked some of the older stuff, Clocks, The Scientists, Yellow, that kind of stuff, but I wasn't like a huge Coldplay guy.
Oh my God, Chris Martin.
But he got tickets, and I was like, I'm not going to say no. And Snow Patrol opened, and I loved Snow Patrol. So I was like, all right, we'll go do this. Well, we decided, we were huge stoners back then, and we decided we're not going to do anything for the show tonight. We're just going to like go and experience it. So we get there, and it's like amphitheater seating. So we're out on the grass, and I don't know how many shows you've been to at a grass amphitheater,
Hundreds.
but pretty much anything goes out there. Like people are bringing anything and everything. So we end up sitting there, and there's this group of people in front of us, and I shit you not, like halfway through Snow Patrol's set, they just turned around with a bag of drugs and was like, do you guys want to have some fun?
I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. The fuck?
I don't recommend taking ecstasy and acid at the same time.
Oh, that's a horrifying experience.
I sat in a fetal position, rocking back and forth for almost the entirety of the set, because Coldplay's light show was their light show and their pyrotechnic show, I will give credit where it's due, was unreal, and I only know that because I watched videos after the fact. I was
live in living color.
No, it was, and I never did. Like, I will say this: like, kids don't do drugs.
No.
But the reason why I never like went further with anything beyond that was because of bad experiences that I had. That was like, I don't like not being in control of myself that way.
Oh, for sure.
At all, but bringing it back to Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead, I think the HBO factor had a lot to do with the fact that they ended up getting Emmys versus AMC.
Facts.
I think that it's when I say that like The Walking Dead did something new and it wasn't super appreciated, I think it was a lot of it had to do with because of how it was coming out. It was being on AMC, which is a station that not everybody got when that came out. Yeah. It wasn't a part of every cable network package. It wasn't. Yeah. And not that HBO was, but people were paying for HBO because of HBO.
There was so many other shit.
Because
Sopranos was on it.
You had Sopranos, The Wire, and then moving into like Powers and like things of that sort. Powers was Stars, wasn't it? I don't remember. There was some other stuff. There was some other stuff on HBO, but I think that's a big reason. I think that if Walton Goggins gets an Emmy, it's going to because I think we can agree his performance deserves it. I understand your thought on Andrew Lincoln, but I think we can agree both of them.
That was
both of them.
I love them.
I think both of them deserved an Emmy. I think if Walton Goggins gets it, it's probably going to be because it is on Amazon Prime and it's very accessible. And that show was so massively well received and had such great critic reviews that I think it's going to push him. And Ella Purnell honestly deserves to be in the conversation as well.
She's fucking bag with Arcane and Fallout, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Dude, so I want to ask like your stance because like, dude, at this point, I could talk to y'all fucking night. Like, I could talk to y'all fucking night.
This is why we're friends.
Yes, like I could talk to y'all fucking night. So, what is your view? See, because like there has been some awful ones, but there has been some hits in the recent days, like with the hits of The Last of Us, Twisted Metal,
Yep.
Fallout.
Do you want to hear a
with
fun
things
Last of Us story, real quick?
I would
I
would
don't
love
think
to.
I don't think I've ever publicly talked about this.
What's up?
So during the time period where I was doing a lot of voice acting and where I was
Yes.
where I did that role, where I did that kind of stuff, I was also heavily involved in the comic book industry, and I was going to conventions and I was covering them both as press, but I was also doing panels. So I was
Yes.
like, I was the one on stage asking the questions too. So like I've got, here's another one real quick. I'm going to make you real
shit.
jealous.
Fuck you, man.
I got to do a panel for Ross Marquand and got to hang out with him, and I have pictures with him.
Oh, dude, that's fucking awesome. Ross is like one of the coolest guys on the planet.
Unbelievable. He was the sweetest, nicest man. But anyways, I met Troy Baker at a convention. And at the time,
his Joker alone, I'm jealous as fuck.
So at the time, I was part of a writing group, and one of the projects that we had was to write a 5,000 word short story. So I wrote a 5,000 word short story called Batman Lost Soul, and the entire story had Batman in it for about 3 sentences, and it was about this kid who grew up in a broken home, getting abused and mistreated, and it was kind of like a mirror of my own life to some degree. And
you always have to, man.
And the plot was basically like he was basically going to kill himself, and one random day in Gotham he was saved by Batman, and it like changed his entire like view of life of like, well, maybe I am supposed to be here. So I had done that, and I had turned it into a 27-minute audiobook. I had done a full voice acting thing where like I had done everything with it. And I'm at the convention, and Troy is there, and I got to sit and talk with him for about 10 or 15 minutes, and I played him a little bit of that. And he was like, he gave me some pointers of like things that like from a logistical side of things of like delivery and things like that, which was really cool. But I will never forget the fact that he was like, he's like, dude, I'm so fucking proud of you. Do you know how many people come up in my lines and ask me how to get into voice acting? And I just have to tell them, do it. And the fact that you're not only doing it, you're writing the shit that you're doing the voice acting too, and you're like going out there and actually like making things happen. And like he was just the sweetest man, and was like and it wasn't just me either. Like he was taking 10 to 15 minutes with just about everybody that he was talking to, and like getting to know them. And like when we ended the conversation, he was like calling me by name, and like it was such a cool experience to be able to like have somebody that like
level for a little bit.
I mean, Troy Baker, his Joker is up there with Mark Hamill for me. Like I think he's incredible, and obviously his role as Joel. But I'll let you get back to your point of talking about like modern TV adaptations.
Dog,
but
this is this is God music to me right now. So like I said, I could fucking keep going all night, man. So yeah, like there's been like successes with The Last of Us, Fallout, Twisted Metal. There has been some great, translations onto the screen of some of these great video game franchises, including the 2022 announced Amazon Prime God of War series that's also coming out that I'm fucking hyped about, because I played 2018 for the first time, and I spent 14 hours in the same day and had no clue it would have been 14 hours that I was playing straight.
Dude, that God of War game is it's a top 5 game of all time, in my opinion.
I've never sobbed during a game. That was the first time. Was the first time. Yeah, it was bad. But what is your view on adaptations? Like, what do you think about them nowadays, now that they're specially circulating?
So I think I'm in a weird camp for being like, I think I'm a pretty decent film person. Like I'm able to critique it and able to point out its flaws, but also like appreciate its strengths and things like that. But I also think I'm in a weird camp where it's like, I want it. I enjoyed Alicia Vikander's Tomb Raider, and that like people didn't really like that. I enjoyed Michael Fassbender's Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed's my favorite. It's my favorite video game franchise of all time. I think that there's been a place where adaptations were just kind of like this is what they have been accepted to be. And I think those movies like Tomb Raider, like Assassin's Creed, I think they kind of fall into this thing where like it's borderline a guilty pleasure, but like, but not super. And now I think we're getting into a place where, and let's be real, I think The Walking Dead was like one of the things that really set the level of adaptation, whether that's video game, comic book, whatever, that set that level of adaptation at a scale of quality that really, I think, changed TV and film when it comes to that kind of stuff. I absolutely love the stuff that's coming out right now. I think that there is a lot more attention being paid to the source material by the people that are heading these things up than there necessarily was with adaptations that came out 5, 10, 15 years ago. I think that even something like Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Like those movies are great. The Knuckles TV show is great. There's more things that they've got in the works for an adaptation. If you would have told me that Sonic the Hedgehog would be one of the best video game adaptation series or movies 10, 15 years ago, I'd say, what the fuck are you talking about? He's just a little hedgehog that runs. It's a platformer. It's a side-scrolling platformer. How are you going to make a whole movie out of that? And then you get people like James Marsden, who's in every animal human movie that's ever been created. And you get Jim Carrey, who makes the biggest comeback of like comedic comeback. Like it was insane. Like if you were to tell me that, I'd say that you were crazy. I think that as long as the properties are getting the care, and let's talk about The Last of Us, because Neil Druckmann is so heavily involved in everything that's happening with this TV show, and the way that this season 2 is playing out with the fans, for those who played the game, it's the exact same goddamn thing that happened. What's happening in the show right now in this second season is 90% of what happened in the second video game that people also hated. But that's the point. You're supposed to question whether or not you're on Abby or on Ellie's side. You're supposed to question, is Joel even a good person? That's the point. That's the point of it.
I'm going to get down to the bottom nitty gritty. I'm just going to say it right now. If we're looking at it as a classic black and white story, Abby's the good guy through and through. Joel and Ellie are both horrible people. Neil Druckmann just did a really good job having us fall in love with the bad guy because he put us in that perspective.
But here's the thing. That's what makes the most interesting storytelling. And what makes the most interesting storytelling is the fact that we're supposed to perceive Abby as the villain, when in actuality, like, Joel fucking killed her dad. Like,
murdered them and robbed the world of a cure.
Yeah, like now the way that she went about it was very villainous in the way, in her revenge or whatever. But if you want to even compare that to things like Magneto in X-Men, right? Like the best villains are the ones that actually have depth and like, I don't want to say, because like I'm not necessarily. I am, but I'm not empathetic. I'm empathetic to a degree with these characters, and then they cross a line, and it's like, okay, now you're kind of too far gone. But I think that there has to be an element of like needing to have actual development and depth to a character who is a villain for it to hit. The worst villain, if let's take the MCU movies in the last 10 years, who are the worst villains in these movies? They're the ones that have been brought in for one appearance. We've got no background on them. We've gotten no history. We've gotten terrible representations of them in things like MODOK. What are the best villains? Loki, who's been in this series for 15 years and has had multiple different, sometimes he's a good guy, sometimes he's a bad guy, sometimes he's a good guy, sometimes he's a bad guy. Magneto's the same. Magneto was the leader of the X-Men at one point. Like there's even in X-Men 97, the continuation of the animated series, Magneto takes over as the leader of the X-Men in that. The best villains are the ones that like you understand and you get it and you kind of want to be on their side a little bit. And I think the problem is that a lot of the casual people who didn't play the game, but also who don't necessarily understand the concept behind what is actually trying to be like the message that's trying to get put out there. And for me, the message of The Last of Us is there is no black and white. Everything is gray.
Oh, everything's blurred line, bro.
Everything is great. There is no good and bad. The good and bad is based on perspective. The good and bad is based on whose eyes are you watching the story through.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
People are about to love Abby next season.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And like I remember, because The Last of Us, the first game, is one of my favorite games of all time. And I remember playing the second game and being mad, but also, and I'm like kind of skating around because I don't want to like be spoiler on like and like say what actually happened for those who have not watched it yet. But like when I got to that point in the game, I was like, who the fuck am I playing now? What is happening? Like where did it, but as a writer, and I think maybe that has given me an appreciation level that
you have an advantage.
Extends a little bit beyond, is I appreciate the turn and the twist that nobody saw coming with that. When the hype for The Last of Us 2 when that game was coming out was unreal. And then the moment people started to play it, it was like, oh, this is I've never seen a video game get review bombed as much as that one ever. Yeah. And I don't know that we ever will again.
I don't know, man. Yeah.
But that's the point. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point of all of it. It's supposed to make you mad. You're supposed to doubt yourself.
If you like The Last of Us in any sort of capacity, in some way, you are a massive fan of fucked up shit. Like you have to be 100%. A massive fan of fucked up shit and to really enjoy that storytelling. And people also disregard that the best storytelling is the most traumatizing. And like, people in risks, bro. Like, who's gonna kill off their main character?
What superhero doesn't have a dead parent or a dead family member or whatever? Like, the reason the Punisher is so riveting is because of how fucked his situation is. His family got fucking murdered, like right in front of him. And
in a violent manner.
And I think it's, have you watched the Daredevil Reborn? Okay. Mm-hmm. So first of all, I think it's the best show of this year. It honestly might be one of my favorite things that Marvel has put out. Now, I'm a huge Daredevil fan. I'm a huge Daredevil fan in general. I'm a huge fan of the Punisher. That entire show is nothing but trauma. That entire world. Like, if you want to bring in the Defenders, Jessica Jones might have the most fucked up past of any Marvel character ever. Kilgrave
back next season.
I know. Everybody is. I just saw a report recently that Finn Wolfhard and Colton are coming back too. So we're getting more Defenders. But the reason that storytelling is so good, look at Kingpin. How many times during this season were you like, you know what? Wilson kind of makes sense. He's kind of cooking right now on like his view of things. But then the evil and whatever that's revealed later is like, oh no, this is a really bad guy. But then you think about the fact that he sat and watched his mom get beat the fuck up his entire childhood. He got beat up his entire childhood. How did you think he was going to end up?
Yeah,
like
fucked up.
Every comic book character, good or bad, has a tragic backstory. Why? Because it's interesting. And it's relatable. How many of these characters, even in The Last of Us, like how many of these characters are we able to find like a connection to because of how relatable that is? Even in Fallout.
Yeah.
The way that those characters are handled is handled in a way that's like, I get it. I understand. Like that's awesome. We're getting a BioShock that's in the works that is coming out. That whole story is so fucked. And I can't wait to see that visualized and brought to life in a way that is probably going to make me cry, probably going to make me angry, if you're not feeling something when you're watching something, then they're not doing their job as writers, they're not doing their job as performers. That's the whole point of art in general. Is to make you feel.
I'm gonna be honest, like I actually clowned myself on my live this morning. So I'm a huge fan of the show Big Mouth. on
Okay.
Netflix,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
an animated show about
Oh, yeah.
teens going through puberty, and they have these things called hormone
Nick
monsters.
Kroll is a fucking genius.
So I watched the final episodes last night,
Okay.
and to put into perspective how much I love art, I was fucking sobbing. I'm not going to give spoilers away.
Yeah.
During one of these animated kids' mid-ejaculation orgasm, during a throuple you would never expect, and I am sobbing from sadness because I know these stories are coming to a close. Like that's how fucked up like art gets you. Like there's literally no sad moment. It's just knowing these stories are tied off and knowing how it all makes sense, and just the way they're tying it off just had me fucked up. And like I'm literally crying as this kid is coming. Like it's wild. It's wild.
I think that there, and I think you'll probably agree with me on this, and I think the people that are watching will probably agree as well. I think that the outsiders, the neurodiverse, like I'm autistic and have a lot of other mental illnesses as well. Like the people that, oh yeah,
I can tell.
Yeah. I'm really good at masking. I mean, being dead serious. Like it's just one of those things that like you have to make a choice. Are you going to function, or are you going to just like let your life be miserable because of this? And a lot of my life, like has been a really big tug of war between just suffering and being miserable and trying to like combat that. But I think that there's a reason why we're the subsect of humanity that is doing the creating, that is doing the writing and making of the art. And I think it's because there's a connection to emotion. There's a connection to the universe, to each other, to humanity that people who haven't been through the same kind of stuff, because like I know that like your mental health journey has been something that you've talked about through on your channel. It's something that you've struggled with. It's something that I've always tried to be open with as well. And like that's the shit. Like, dude, I'll tell you. And this will be kind of a good segue into like reactions and kind of how you got into that. But the number of people that I get commenting on my videos that are like thanking me for crying on video is wild. And like I don't mean to trivialize that at all whatsoever. In fact, it's something that like every time I see one of those comments, it gets me emotional, and it makes me teary-eyed, because like I say I'm really good at masking, and I am when I have to be, but I also am terrible. And my girlfriend Amber will say the same thing, that like my face can't hide anything. Like whatever I'm feeling, it's going to be on my face. And so doing the reactions, the people, and I think that it's the same thing with your stuff. I think it's the same thing with Riker Road, and the same thing with Knox Hill and all these other guys, is the human element of like letting the people that are watching into a part of you that is a very raw and vulnerable place is the reason why people subscribe to our channels, because of us, not because of the music. You know what I mean? And that's the whole point. And so I because of that, when I started doing this, I'm basically like made a pact with myself that like I'm going to be true to what I feel. I'm not going to try to mask it. I'm not going to try to hide it. If I feel like I'm getting sad or teary-eyed, I'm going to show that. If I'm like fucking vibing with something, you're going to see the stank face all over me. Yeah. Like it is what it is. But I want
stank. It's good.
Yeah, exactly. So for you, obviously we've spent like 45 minutes talking about movies and film and TV, which is awesome. I fucking love it. Yeah. Because that's part of the reason why like I wanted to have you on, is because like us as like, I say this and this is going to sound super douchey and cliche, but like internet people, right? Yeah. Like we have interests outside of the thing that people know us for, you know, like my TikTok page, people know me as being a musician and an artist, but there's so many other things that I'm into. This YouTube channel, people know me as an artist and as a reactor. And part of the reason that I wanted to do this is so that like people can get to know me better, but people can also get to know you better. So the fact that we just sat and talked about movies for 45 minutes is because that's what you're passionate about. That's something that you love. And I love that. I love hearing people talk about things that they're passionate about and like how that works with them. So I say all of that today, and I feel like I've been doing way too much talking, so I'm going to shut up here. But for you, what was the thing that got you into doing reactions, and what's the thing that you fell in love with doing this?
That's actually very easy to answer because like so what got me into him was actually a moment. So my buddy Danny, he's actually he not so much anymore. He was a music reactor back in the day. He reviewed movies and everything. He actually moved on to like pro wrestling content because we're huge fucking avid pro wrestling fans.
Nice. I get to see John Cena's last match in December. My buddy just booked tickets for it in Boston.
Hey buddy, I'll see you there.
Oh shit! Yeah,
I'll see you there.
Oh man, we're gonna have to link up.
Yeah,
that did not click with me.
Yeah, I will be there actually.
Fuck yeah! Sorry, continue.
So, nice to know. So it was actually a moment. My buddy Danny is actually he was a personality before, and he was like, "Hey, so you should join me on this reaction since we're hanging out anyways." And this new Falling in Reverse song dropped, so I'm like, "All right, cool." And it was Drugs.
Oh yeah,
and
hell of a song to start with.
Yeah, and that's actually what gave Danny the increment that like, hey, dude, maybe you should do this, because he's like, you already have experience in front of the camera with short films and everything. He's like, you could talk your way around a fucking blowjob when it comes to music. Like you have like the knowledge for it. Like you could just have all plans stop. Right.
I've never heard that phrase before, and now I'm incorporating that.
Yeah, you could talk your way around a fucking blowjob about music. Like it's wild. Like you should be, And he's like, and you're kind of like, you got a lot of energy. You need to exert that, because like I would do stupid shit like grab a fucking pool noodle and just smack him with it at a fucking nowhere mid conversation, just because like I just have that much energy to exert, And he's like, dude, you can just fucking go on. So I'm like, okay. So I did it, and something I just started to love a lot, because I'm like, I could again talk about music and movies and shit for days. But what drives me now, and it's still very much like the thing, that the message I still spread on Twitch is, I do this now because I've become more of a streamer than I am like, a YouTuber anymore, like a YouTube reactor, because I fell in love with the people more. I'm not a people person by any means. I have a lot of anxiety. I'm a very socially anxious person for the most part. Like I'm approachable 100%. Like I'm a really anxious human being. And just sometimes people give me the ick, and a lot of the times I'm a more to myself kind of dude. But I fell in love with making a safe place for people to be, their authentic self. Obviously to a point, like, don't get disrespectful, but say what you're feeling, tell me about your day, you link up with other people that are in the chat that feel the same way, give them a space to, agree to disagree. Give them a space for their mental health to just flourish, and just to grow off of that, and leave with a better feeling what they came in with, and that to me has been the most rewarding experience. And finding those like-minded people, and being able to meet a few of them, be able to kind of share some really heavy shit, and just to really give them that space to do so. And know that there's that safety there, knowing that even if I'm not available, somebody else is, to kind of step in there. And it's been a beautiful journey, since then. And I think that has become my therapy, and where I'm giving everybody else therapy in the form of entertainment or just talking through the chat. They're also in vice versa at the same time doing that for me. So, and I think that's kind of the most rewarding experience.
Is that something that you have always kind of like, do you think that stems from the fact that that's something that you wish you had when you were younger, or that's something that you wish you or something that you needed and weren't able to have because of XYZ?
So yes, like I think that will always be rooted in for it's like, dude, be the fucking person that you wanted, especially being a dad now, my
Yeah.
little one's and the other is in the living room with Ash, my significant other,
Yeah.
she's chilling right now, and I think, being that person, that I didn't have for somebody else. And, a lot of the time, the biggest takeaway from all of it, and I think the biggest thing that, everybody has in common is, they genuinely just need to have someone listen,
Yeah.
and just genuinely listen, not just
Mm-hmm.
listen to them talk, take it all in, but no, just genuinely hear them out.
Yeah.
Give them a second, like sometimes a lot of people don't know what you're going through.
Yeah.
But in the community that I've built, there is no such thing as that. Everybody
Yeah.
knows what everybody's going through because it's become that organically
Mm-hmm.
open. And that's something that I've always wanted to be a part of, was just
Yeah.
a safe place, a place to call home, know?
I have kind of an off the wall question, but I
What's
think
up?
you'll see how I'm tying it into this. So, I grew up incredibly religious, and you had talked about like, did you grow up Catholic? Is that kind of like, or was that
I
just
am Roman Catholic, yeah.
okay? Okay, are you still Roman Catholic?
So that's a funny question. So
Okay.
I grew up in a Filipino household, and
Yeah.
if you're Filipino, you are in touch with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
You are in touch with the Lord. Like that is that you'll find a plaque of the Last Supper somewhere in
Yeah.
our house.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went to Catholic school for 9 years.
Okay.
I spent time in a Catholic choir in the cathedral for another, I think, 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
I could tell you a whole mass with my back turned in Latin.
Yeah.
Like I could do some crazy shit, but
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to am I still practicing? No.
Okay.
Do I believe that there is a higher power out there that is kind of pulling the strings?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I have a very damaged relationship with God.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually ever, talked about this out in, out in the open, which is kind of nice for once because I'm not saying that, I can't do that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's different doing it, obviously on a platform for once. I have a very damaged relationship with God.
That's valid.
I ask a lot of questions, like I have a lot of questions and I'm not afraid to ask them,
Yeah.
and the biggest one being, if you are this all loving and caring entity, why are you allowing me to go through the shit that I'm going through? Why am I experiencing all the shit and where the fuck is the payoff?
Yeah.
Why am I this way when I could be this perfect image you see me in, no matter how damaged I am? But what do I have to show for it? Yeah. Why did I lose what I lost? Why am I going through this? And why excuse my language, why the fuck aren't you answering?
No,
good, and that is, that's real. That's a real thing. A lot of people that are super religious there, I guarantee there are priests and maybe even bishops out there that have questioned their faith at one point or another.
Yeah.
But I know that mine is so damaged to the point where it's not my most important thing. But if I were to ever revisit it, I'd be open to it. I've even I've talked to my significant other who's not religious by any means, and I respect it, but I've even jokingly been just like, I really want to get like really stoned one day, not like like flower, like everybody can hear me, smell me, fucking from across the pew, but like I want to almost get like medicated one day and just sit in the back and just kind of take it all in, because I know I'm gonna feel something. Like I know I'm gonna feel the presence of something, like something that's gonna take I who knows if I burst down and start fucking crying out of nowhere. Like I just have been curious about putting myself in that perspective again after so long, just to see what it's like, just because, there's been some time, but I do have a very damaged relationship there.
Yeah, that's totally valid. And I mean, I guess I'm kind of, so I've been deconstructing. I mean, one of my last singles was called Deconstruct, but like it's been something that I've been going through for years now. Grew up in the church. I've been a worship pastor. I've been I've been heavily involved in like small groups and leading roles and things like that over my life. And there's a lot of reasons and a lot of trauma in what happened with that kind of had me starting asking questions, and the more questions I asked, the fewer answers I got. And it just kind of put me to a place where like, I would consider myself agnostic, not atheist. I think that there has to be and maybe that's just me. There has to be something, you know. I struggle with the idea that like X amount of atoms hit each other at just the right time that just happened to form, and like I think there has to be something. I don't know what that is, but I've kind of gotten to a point in my life now where I don't really care. I'm to a point now where like my mission, my goal is just to like spread love and kindness and like make sure that people are not alone, make sure that if I have the chance to make it so that somebody else doesn't have to go through the same shit that I had to go through to get to this point, then that means that's my purpose, and I'm okay with that being it. The reason why I bring this up is because for me, the biggest thing that has been painful is the loss of community or perceived community that I had when I was a part of the church. Which in retrospect, I think a lot of that was very like the community that I was in was like very gaslit and very like picture perfect. We're going to present you with this thing, but this isn't actually. And I say that because of the countless times where like you would be in community with somebody at an event, but then you wouldn't hear from them any other time throughout the week. Nobody was checking on you. Nobody gave a shit about you. Nobody, whatever. And I think for me, what I'm doing now in doing these reactions and building this community and having conversations with people in the comments, if anybody goes through any of my videos, I don't respond to everybody, but like I try to respond to as many people as I can in my comments, because of course people are taking the time out of their day to send me paragraphs of their story, to send me the way that this song is hitting them or whatever. Like that's why I'm doing this. I want to hear those stories. I want to do that. Do you feel like since you've started doing your reaction channel in this community and doing the live streaming and the Twitch and all of this kind of stuff, do you feel like that community has kind of filled any kind of like a spot that maybe was lost with the damage that was done by religion to you growing up?
So I wouldn't say that, no.
Okay.
So for me, like, you know, my community and you know, my circle in religion were completely separate. You know, I made a lot of friends through Catholic school. I can't really count on one hand out of any that I actually, you know, still talk to this day. I've rekindled with a few of them from Catholic school that are now content creators that want to collab and everything. And that's super cool, you know. But I would say majority of it was separate. But I will say that it, like, in terms of filling like a void and, you know, something that I feel like needed to be healed. Yes, absolutely. I think I was missing that sense of like community and togetherness, especially in terms of like, you know, like where a lot of like my IRL kind of like position was in terms of like, you know, where like my friends were really at, especially, you know, being a content creator, you know, having a different path in life, so to speak, you know, kind of seeing things differently, you know, even as little as, you know, not even having the same interest in the same game anymore. Like we don't even game like that together anymore. So I think like in terms of like, I guess a loneliness, but also the sense of like, you know, wanting to be there for people, you know, but also, you know, just being like, if I'd had, you know, something that I was carrying that I know for certain that I could depend on somebody to just genuinely hear me out. You know, even if there's nothing that they could do, that listening ear is so much. And, you know, I wanted to give that back, you know, and I think that, you know, the community definitely filled that void that was missing and kind of healed that one perspective that I was lacking. You know?
I love that. I love that. And I think that like, that's such a beautiful thing, and it's like such a beautiful part of humanity. Like I when I started doing this, I was real nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was nervous about how I was gonna be perceived, how I was gonna be accepted, not accepted, how my my style of reacting was going to be accepted, because I dissect lyrics, not to the level of like a Knox Hill, but I definitely like try. I don't think anybody on the planet can dissect lyrics like that man.
He's fucking Frankenstein.
He's unreal. But like I have now settled into like a very distinct style of reacting that is consistent for me, and it took a little bit for me to kind of find that. But my faith in humanity has skyrocketed since since starting this journey and being on YouTube, and the love and support and the comments and everything that I've received from people. And even just like if I'm not going to have a video out, or like this week, the first half of the week was on vacation, when we're recording this. And so I didn't put out any videos this week because I was like, I'm just going to kind of take a break or whatever. And so I'll try to like post something on my channel, like under my posts, and let people know. And like, everybody's like, dude, we'll be here when you get back. Like, take time. Like, you deserve it. Like, whatever. And it's just like, that is something that that level of support and love is something that like I just don't have IRL. It's just I just don't. Like, I have my small little nucleus circle of people, and then outside of that, like, and most of my friends are all over the country. Like, I talk my buddy that's there in Boston. He's one of my best friends. Eric, shout out Eric. He's in Boston. My other best friend Mikey that I mentioned, he's in Australia now. He him and his part. He was from Canada. His partner's from Australia. Their relationship flourished, and he moved out to Australia. So like, all of my friends are all over the world. So like, I have a very select group of people here locally where I'm at that like I can do stuff with. And so having the opportunity of having like this community outside of this where like I can build those connections and whatnot is like such a beautiful thing. And just like seeing people's spirits and seeing people's like desire. I think at our core as humans, not to get super philosophical here, but like at our core as humans, I think that's something that is like an inherent built-in desire, is to have that community, to have like a connection with people, to find a purpose in like, why are we here? I'm an ant on this planet in the scope of forever when you talk about the past and then going in, like, I'm here for just a blip. So like, what's the purpose of that? Well, the purpose of it is being present. It's being like here right now. It's you and I right now having these conversations, laughing and getting into deep stuff and talking about movies and comic books and like, and music. And like, that's the purpose. Like, that's why we're here, is for this. And I just think it's really cool that like, I had no idea what I was getting into with this reaction genre on YouTube or on social media. And it's been a really cool experience. So I want to ask you, as someone who's more of a veteran in this than me, what have been some of like your biggest struggles, like actually as a reactor, whether that's from a logistical side of things of like keeping a schedule or getting things done, or even just from like an emotional side of things of like, we're reacting and listening to so much music that a lot of it has very heavy stuff in it. What's been some of your biggest challenges?
So I think one of obviously one of my real life struggles is, pretending that I don't care what people think about me when obviously I do. I think everybody does in some kind of capacity, or else you're a fucking sociopath.
Yeah.
I do, I genuinely tried my hardest in, some ways. And I think you can definitely tell the shift in my content in a little bit, but I live to be a people pleaser in a certain extent, I like to try my best to take, a lot of, people's constructive criticism. I try to, kind of cater to as many people as I possibly can, and the style of reactions. I could be better about catching certain things. I could be better about, dissecting a lyric. I'm not a lyrical dissector. If you want a fucking book, go watch Knox Hill. 100%. I love Knox Hill. Respect to the dude, he's killing it.
Yeah.
But I'm not that kind of reactor. I am the person that you want to get that feeling of hearing a dope ass song for the first time again, and you want to get that same feeling rushing through you by watching me do it, by getting that same feeling of dude, now I remember why I was so hyped on this fucking song, because this kid's energy is the same exact way that I felt when I heard it. Now, where there's good things that have come with it, there's also bad things. For example, awful fucking comments. And how I deal with them is very different now. Back then, when obviously I was still coming up, and I still very much am coming up. I only have 10,300 something subscribers. That's really not a lot. That's really realistically not a lot, especially when
I'm gonna pause right now. I'm just gonna, because I just want to I just want to point this out because I've had this same thing said to me about other things that I've done. You say it's not that much, but if you had 10,000 people in a room with you, you'd be selling out arenas. So I just want to like put that into perspective of like
a really good perspective. Wow, dude, you just blew my fucking mind. Just blew my mind, bro. Wow, since you put it that way, holy fuck. Okay,
Yeah.
So, dude, you just blew my mind so hard I forgot where I was going.
I just want to say that because I think you and I both sometimes can like have this like self-deprecating of like, oh, it's only this much or whatever. But like, and I'm the same way, and I sometimes struggle with the like do as I say, not as I do kind of a thing. But like I want like be proud of that. Like 10,000, like you've worked your ass off for that. You've been at this for years now. You've put in the time. You've put in the effort. You've switched things up. You've refined things to get to the point where you're at now.
I'm having an Andrew Garfield moment where it's like, no, let's run that back. You're amazing.
Yeah.
Like I needed to hear that. Thank you.
You're welcome, buddy.
But like, when I was still like heavily on the grind coming up, like I was just barely breaking 1,000. People would say some awful shit to me, bro. Like awful things that's like so out of pocket. I'm like, dude, who shit in your fucking Cheerios this morning? Like, and why am I getting the brunt of it? Like, you ever seen that meme where like it shows this group of guys driving and then the other driver like pulls up and starts insulting the guy in the back seat?
Yeah.
And he's like, why did I get picked on?
Yeah.
Why the fuck, like, am I getting the brunt of it? And I used to handle it with so much, grace and, humility and like, nah, now, dude, I big dick that shit. Now I'm like, nah, bro. You're like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, what the fuck am I? Like, what are you like? Why are you taking like? I point out the error in people's ways now. Now I'm just like, dude, I used to be so chill about it, and like it may come off like really arrogant, really douchey, but I don't give a fuck. You didn't give a fuck when you typed the comment. I'm not gonna give a fuck for blowing you up. All right, I'm not. Like, I can only handle a certain level of just blatant stupidity that is on the internet where it's like, dude, put your phone down, go touch some grass, maybe make some fucking friends and just stay off this for a little bit. Because it's like, for example, one of the biggest things that I get, especially recently, and again, like even 2 years ago when I took a little bit of a break because of just how bad it was, one of the biggest comments I got was this.
Oh, the vaping thing?
And I'm like, dude, this video, and like, I don't like to toot my own horn. Like, I don't in any ways, but I'm like, some of the videos where I'm vaping have been some of not only the best received videos, visually, they've come out like in the best in production. Some of the drops with the effects have been lined up perfectly.
Yeah.
And it's what I'm genuinely proud of. And out of all of that work, and the fact that I gave the public what they wanted, a solid reaction, a genuine breakdown of the song, my excitement for it, what I would have loved to see, a rating, and that's what you're going to be fucking on me for.
Yeah.
Like, that is, it's those things that genuinely bug the shit out of me and that make it almost to the point where it's unenjoyable. I've stopped reacting to certain artists because of it, because of their very toxic fan base. And I would love to address it. Like, for example, I stopped reacting to NF, and I know what it could have done for my channel. I stopped reacting to NF because, dude, not all of the fans, like, I'm not saying the collective fans in any of these artists that I'm about to mention.
Yeah.
Some of NF's fans are some of the most vile people I have ever like seen in my entire life comment on people's work that they put so much effort into to become educated. I'm reacting for the first time for these videos.
Yeah.
And they tear you the fuck apart, especially like when it's in a genre you're not familiar with. Like, you're doing this to get that education, to appreciate these artists, give them the free marketing. They're not even going to know who the fuck I am 9 times out of 10. I'm a blip in the system, like you said, know? And some of these people are so hateful. And I'm like, dude, another one that shocked me to the core, which is another reason, and I know your audience might not like this a lot. But your audience might not like this a lot because I was a part of it. Some of the best people that I still talk to this day that have become some of my closest friends came from the Ren community. And 90% of them, 90% are some of the most incredible incredible human beings that I've ever had a chance to even just read some of their stories, like you brought up. You know, I've been straight up told, and like I could even pull up the screenshot and also the picture of myself in tears after reading the comment. I've been told that, listen, I'm sick as hell, but like mentally, you saved my life just by
I've gotten comments like that too.
you know, like feeling the way that you did during this song.
Yeah.
And during a Ren song, I couldn't nail down which one, but I've gotten comments to that extent, and I'm just like, and it's gotten to me, dude. Like I've had to like sit the fuck down and just breathe for a second because of just, I'm just some fucking dude, you know? And like, I stopped reacting to his music. You know, I recently just came back and did a live stream with some of the things that I missed over the last like year and some change I haven't been. And a lot of it not only came from the fact that, dude, I got burnt out. I was uploading 6 videos a day for 3 months.
Holy shit. I didn't realize that you were doing that much. Okay.
Of nothing but Ren for the most part. And where, and again, they're probably not going to fucking like this, but like, again, this is where it's, you know, what we do.
Real quick, I want to just like point out, like, this is not in any way, shape, or form, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not in any shape or form a reflection of these artists that we're talking about.
It's not
at all. And
question. No.
And I think that, just to play devil's advocate, I think that there is an aspect of some people that X thing, whether that's an artist or a movie or whatever, had such a profound impact on somebody's life that then it is something that they take incredibly seriously, which is totally okay.
Yes.
But I think that an aspect, and I've noticed this in comment threads on pretty much every reactor that I've ever followed, is like I had heard of Ren. I had never listened to anything of his prior to doing this reaction channel. There are multiple artists that I haven't even gotten to yet that I want to react on my channel, and now that I've started, I'm holding off. One that is like a blind spot for me that it was a band I never listened to for whatever reason, is Deftones. Like I just never listened to Deftones, and it wasn't, and it's not because I heard something and didn't like it. I've just never listened to them.
You just never got to it.
But like I heard Chino on Liftoff, which is one of the songs on Mike Shinoda's Post Traumatic, and I was like, this guy has a fucking beautiful voice.
People fucking
and so like he's one of, like, that band is one of the bands that like I want to start diving into. And but I know how hardcore the Deftones fan base is, and I'm honestly terrified because I think that something that is missed a lot of times is, by the nature of us reacting to something we've never heard before, this is our journey on this thing. So this is our journey on discovering. It's no different than like when we went to Target when we were 10 years old and we saw an album that like maybe had cool artwork on it, or or there was one song that we heard on the radio and we're like, we want that. And then we sat in our bedroom and we listened to it and we discovered that for the first time. It's our journey. It's just now that as reactors, that journey is more public and people are seeing our reactions and things like that. But I think that sometimes it's missed that, like, we're not going to catch everything. We're not going to be like, there's probably Sleep Token's a great example. There's lore that like people who are just getting into Sleep Token, that lore is not there for them. So they're listening to,
I don't give a shit about the lore.
When the Summoning came out, that was like the boom of like when people really started getting into Sleep Token, and you can listen to that song and you can appreciate that song for what it is. Is there lore? Is there stuff involved? 21 Pilots is another one. I love 21 Pilots. The lore of Clancy on that is such a cool thing as like a storyteller and as like a lover of that kind of stuff. But I think that there are people that focus so much on that and like, you need to have this information in order to be able to do this. And that's just not reality. That's not how these journeys work. Like when so there's a band called Oh Sleeper. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they were a Christian metalcore band back in like the 2000s, and they were on Solid State. So they were with your Under Oaths, they were with your Emerys and your Norma Jeans, and like that whole era of August Burns Red, Devil Wears Prada, that kind of stuff. So they became one of my favorite bands. And their second album is an album called Son of the Morning. I literally have their symbol tattooed on my arm.
Nice.
Son of the Morning, which was a concept album about the final battle between God and Satan. And at the end, like, God rips the horns off of Satan, whatever. Concept album, right? If I were to just listen to one track off of that, I probably wouldn't understand the whatever of it, but that doesn't mean that I can't still appreciate that song. And so I think that this small subsect of people who are like commenting and either like saying things like, you need to do this, or you should have done this first, or whatever, is
got a lot of that.
I get it to a degree, because I also get, like, if you've already experienced this and you know that it can enhance the experience by doing this thing, then you want to share that. But I think it's the way that people are delivering that can be very off-putting, and it's difficult. And it's why I kind of stopped being on TikTok. So like my primary platform for years was TikTok. I have almost 100,000 followers on TikTok, and I went hard. Same thing as you, like 3 or 4 videos a day. I was putting out content regularly, and as much positivity as I was getting so, like, I had a duet that I did with Dax. And like years ago, it was his Joker song, and it went hella viral, like 1.5 million views. Dax shared it on his page, and it got so much. And as for all of the good shit that was on there, the number of people saying just another stupid fucking white rapper trying to do a black music was obscene how much that is. And it does get to a point where it's like, I don't want to do this thing that I love anymore, because it's hard to tune out that negativity. And I was the kind of person that would get in fights with people in the comment section for the longest time, because I was like, no, you need to hear me. You need to listen to like why you're wrong or whatever. And it's like, at the end of the day, if those people are going to put in the effort to leave those comments, they're not going to listen to logic. They're not going to listen to what I have to say. They're not going to. And so now I'm at a point with that stuff. I've posted it on my YouTube channel. Like, if you're going to be mean, hateful, or rude, either to me or anybody in my comments, you're getting muted, you're getting removed from my channel, and I'm not going to like give you any attention anymore, because that's for my own mental health and my own peace of mind of like, what's the point of me getting into an argument with somebody in the comment thread? Because like, and even stuff with my own music, like when people comment on my music and like comment on the production choices or the vocal choices or whatever, and it's like, okay, but like, I spent 16 hours on this thing, like trying to get it exactly how I envisioned it in my head, to a point where I love the final product of it. And then you want to come in and like shit on it and say how it would be better this way or the other. And I could sit there and be like, no, but I did this, but why? Yeah. What am I accomplishing? Because I'm not going to make you believe me. I'm not going to like change your viewpoint on it. Yeah. So I say all of that, I guess, is like sort of an encouragement to you of like, it's really difficult to sometimes focus on the 99% when the 1% is like putting a sour taste in your mouth. But I think like setting that boundary internally and mentally of like, I'm not going to participate in this rage baiting, in this other kind of stuff has been super beneficial to me. But it's also fun sometimes. It's also fun sometimes to just be like, you're a fucking dumbass. Like, especially what are you even saying?
Stupidest comments. Like, those are the ones that I'll respond to, or just the dumb fucking comments where it's just like, what does that have to do with anything? But what got me to stop reacting to Ren, and it wasn't one, at first it started with the burnout, because like, again, like,
just so much.
He's a very, dude's going through it. I'm never going to discredit
his music's heavy. His music's heavy.
His life story is heavy, you know, and I'm not discrediting that. And like, that's the thing about the difference between being a fan and sheep fucking cult mentality. Yeah. Is there is a percentage of that fan base that has that mentality. And it's because what rubbed me the wrong way, and I was like, dude, I'm not fucking doing it. Like, the moment I was in my buddy's live stream, and he was doing some Ren songs and everything. And mind you, again, he's a friend of mine. He's a fellow reactor. You would even consider him to be classified as a Ren reactor, which, again, I got typecast at that. And that's another thing where I had a problem, where I'm like, If I'm coming back, I'm doing this my way.
Yeah.
And I have no issue with his music. I think he's one of the most talented.
Again, this has nothing to do with the artist at all whatsoever. Yeah.
It doesn't to a degree, because part of it does with why I stopped as well.
Okay.
So a lot of it had to do with the fan base in this particular live stream. I like having challenging conversations, and maybe that might partially be my fault, is I like having conversations on an opposite spectrum. I had started a conversation, and again, I say conversation. I'm not trying to just purposely, I don't just roll up to live streams with hate speech. I don't. But I like having challenging conversations. You know, like I'm not trying to make a point or anything. I just like having challenging conversations. And I kind of laid out why I stopped reacting to Ren, just kind of openly just having a conversation. And I'm like, you know, honestly, we're at a point now where we're singing the same song repeatedly, just with different words. It's either I'm sick, the government sucks, a catchy cover of a very popular song. And then very minorly, there's difference where you'll see the difference pique my interest, you know? But it's not a diss towards them to say that. Like, I'm personally bored.
You could say, so NF's one of my favorite artists of all time. He's a huge influence on me. He's a huge influence on my music and whatever. But up until Hope, you could sit there and you could say Perception and Therapy Session and Mansion and all of these different things. Like, they're kind of all about the same thing. And there's no problem with that, because that's what Nate was going through. That was his experience, and this was literally his therapy of doing that. And I think that kind of the same thing can be said for Ren, where it's like, a lot of the stuff, and the same thing can be said for me. If you go, like, I've had conversations with people where it's like, why do you make such fucking sad music all the time? And, like, I've had that conversation about my music, and I think that there is just an aspect of, like, being an artist and understanding that, like, I make music for myself to be able to get my feelings and emotions out. And so I've been in the same place for a long time. And so a lot of my music is kind of about the same thing. And the thing is the place that Ren or NF is in, and creating that music is going to find the audience it needs to find. Right now, the music that I'm listening to from Ren is hitting me right where it needs to hit me. Like, I'm in that place. But there does get to a point where it's like, I don't listen to as much of Perception as I used to. I don't listen to as much of, like, some of the old stuff from artists that were in a different headspace, because I'm trying to now get into a different headspace myself. So I've listened to more of Clouds and Hope than I have those early albums, because of the content shift in that. And I also have to remind myself that, like, every artist is on their own journey. And so if they're putting out a lot of the same thematic elements in their music, it's because that's where they are, and that's okay. But that doesn't have to be for everyone. That doesn't have to, like, you don't, and that's not taking away from that artist. That's not saying anything negative about them. That's not saying that, like, there's not a purpose for that, because there might be 10 songs of an artist in their discography that are basically saying the same thing, but every person that listens to them might hear an individual song at a different moment in time, and that's the song that they needed. Even though there might be 9 other songs that are the same thing, that's the one that they heard, and so that has that hook in them and, like, hits them at that time. So I get what you're saying, that, like, there can be an element of like a little bit of repetition in the actual content of things, but I think that that's just the nature with everything. Supernatural had 15 seasons. You don't think that there was, like, that entire show, the last 5 seasons of that was repetition, but that doesn't mean it wasn't good. It doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy it or that I didn't watch every second of it. So I think that's kind of like it's a tough thing.
Where it got me, though, is like, it's like, dude, after a certain amount of time, it's like, I would love it if you moved on to something new, or if you tried something musically out of your comfort zone. Like, I'm a music lover. Of course I would fucking love you to step it up a little bit. But what turned me off entirely was I basically was not allowed to have an opinion. Like, it's like it got turned into shit talking. And I actually recently announced and did my Return to the Reniverse live stream. That very early on, I fucking regretted doing. Very early on in that stream, because mid stream, I got a comment referring to that live stream, and I'm like, and this is why I fucking stopped in the first place, because it's like, I went from giving this thing a chance that apparently I had an opinion, a sour opinion on, and apparently it was considering me talking shit, again referring back to the sheep mentality, and now where I was ready to enjoy this to my full extent, make based criticism, not even a quarter way through that live stream, I didn't even want to fucking do it anymore. I'm going to be completely honest and completely transparent. I didn't even want to fucking do it anymore. And I'm like, I still want to go through whatever album's coming next, because I heard that it's going to be more in my lane musically, and I'm stoked for that.
Yeah.
But I've also openly said that I think the journey ends after that for me, because it's I can't stay there, just because I'm like, dude, you took all the enjoyment out of me. It's like you took my want to do it out entirely all over again.
Well, it's the same. If we want to put that in like a film perspective, it's the same thing has happened with, let's say, the MCU, let's say with Star Wars, like the toxic fan base from the new trilogy. And look, I'm not going to sit here and like talk about the new trilogy like it was just the best thing since sliced bread, because I have a lot of problems with it. But at the same time, there's a difference between having a problem with something and, like, in the second one, I don't remember the actress's name, but like attacking her because she's Asian in this world, or like there were things that were happening in the fandom that was like, that's not cool. And the same thing with like Marvel, where it's like people are getting upset about like, I can't wait to see the X-Men in the MCU, because the number of people that I already know are going to come out and be like, it's so woke. And it's like, do you even know what the origins and like where this stuff came from? Like, do you understand?
You're on the word woke way too much.
That word just like, first of all, it just needs to
cringe.
Yeah, it is. And I'm like the most like left liberal leaning. I'm queer. Like and so like I just, that stuff can ruin things for people. And honestly, it soured me to Marvel for a while. Like I didn't watch a lot of Marvel stuff because it was She-Hulk. That's what it was. It was after She-Hulk came out, because I really enjoyed She-Hulk.
I fucking did too. Oh, thank God. I thought you were about to clown me.
No. I thought it was so fun. And I thought the whole like Megan Thee Stallion thing, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was like, okay, this is like so comic booky in like the way that it's being presented. And the internet and the groups that I was a part of and the side of TikTok I was on and like all of this kind of stuff, it just started divulging into this like, just it made it so not fun for me to experience that. And I think that that's okay. And so like when I started this Ren journey, I do something called Wednesday reactions. So every Wednesday I do 2 reactions. I do one in the morning and I do one at night. And that's when I do my Ren reactions. That's it.
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm doing what I want to do. I'm doing the kind of music, like I go into my release radar on Spotify. I go into new metal. I like not NU, but like NEW. I go into the new metal playlist. I go into the alternative playlist. I go into the hip hop playlist, and I find new stuff that's coming. Like Yellow Card just released a new track. That's gonna be a reaction next week. The Yellow Card's one of my favorite bands. There are things that I've reacted to on my channel. Dude, I reacted to an Attack song last week. That was their return. And it has, after a week, hasn't even hit 100 views. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care, because like I had so much. First of all, I did that reaction with my partner, and so that was fun in and of itself, because she's not really into heavy music, but she was able to vibe with like the dancey side of like what they were able to bring to that. And that's the thing that like I don't ever want to lose sight of, is I don't ever, and it's the reason why from the beginning I made it clear, because I had a bunch of people saying, we want more, we want more, we want more. And I was like, I understand that you want more, and I appreciate that, and I love that. But this is the way that I'm going to do this. I want to give it its time because I love Ren and I love everything that I've reacted to. And I know that there's so much more that I'm going to love as well. But I've been worried about exactly what you talked about, which is that burnout. It's the reason why I don't want to even on a small scale, right? Like Sleep Token, even in Arcadia came out. I recorded that in the reactions for that entire album in one sitting. I sat down, I listened to every single track outside of the singles, and I recorded it. I was exhausted by the time I was done recording all of those videos, but I wanted to get them out in a timely manner because I knew that people. Like, I know me as a fan of reactions, like when something new comes out, my immediate thing as I'm surfing the web and I'm finding reactions to the things that like I wanted to listen to. And so I love being that for other people. I love like being able to like give that to them, but it is exhausting. And the fact that you were doing that many, I did not know that. And that's mind blowing to me. And it also like, I think I want, because I know that I have so many people, so much of the Reniverse on my channel is I want people to really hear what Ben is saying and take it for what it really is, because I think that I don't want people jumping down into my comments saying like, oh, like what's going on with this or whatever, because first of all, Ben, I want you to know that like I hear you and like I feel you and I understand where you're coming from, because I've been through that burnout, and that burnout has nothing to do with the art that we're consuming. It has to do with the exterior things that's around that. And I thankfully and I know that there's an aspect of this in every fan base of toxicity in every fan base.
Oh yeah, dude.
Sleep Token is a perfect example of that. Like
perfect example.
There is such a toxic side of Sleep Token's fan base, and Sleep Token is very quickly becoming one of my favorite bands. But I've seen so much, and a lot of it's from like the dude bros who are like expecting Take Me Back to Eden in every single song.
Yeah, dude.
And it's like, that is that's so draining to like experience that. And so I feel very grateful and thankful that like 99.9% of what I have received on all of the stuff that I've done from Ren has been positive. It has been encouraging. It has been, and I get, and I'm sure everybody gets this, but like, I get the like, oh, you need to do this one next, this one next, this one next, this one next, whatever. And like, I have a short list. Like I have the next like 3 months of Ren videos already mapped out and like the order that I'm going to do them in. And because I'm only doing 2 of them and I'm only doing them on 1 day a week, I'm creating a space for myself to not create that burnout. Yeah. And for me, that was like so important. And like hearing you talk about that burnout, like that's something that talking to other creators that's a reason why I set that boundary in the beginning, is because like I know that there was a period of time where like you were fucking going through it, and it wasn't just that. It wasn't just like there was other life stuff that was going on with you that was like making it difficult. And I think there needs to be an aspect of that that's talked about as well. What you see from us like on our channel, on our reactions, you don't know what we just dealt with an hour before we decided to record this video. You don't know what we're going to be dealing with after we're done with this video. And so I just want that to be a little bit of a reality check for people that are consuming this content of, we're also real people who have bad days and who deal with shitty stuff and who misinterpret things. I legitimately had a back and forth with somebody in my comments a couple weeks ago, and I misinterpreted a comment. I was having a really bad day. I misinterpreted a comment and I left a response that wasn't a great response. And I felt horrible about it. And thankfully, like I was able to like talk that out with that person and like have an adult conversation and take the responsibility of being like, look, I didn't react to this well. My response was coming from a place of like, I've had a really horrible day. I've had a horrible week. And so I want to apologize and say that like, I shouldn't have responded this way. And things were smoothed over, and that person is like still regularly communicating in my comments and stuff. And I love that. That's and like, beautiful. I'm so grateful. And I think that is the part. I think let's kind of like close with that, because I think the communication and like realizing that we're all human, realizing that like we're all going through stuff is something that needs to be remembered when you're interacting with people on the internet. And we're sitting here in front of a camera right now having this conversation. We've been talking for over 2 hours, and I've loved every second of it.
Same.
And I also know that the number of people that are going to watch this interview from the beginning to the end is going to be much smaller because of I'm looking at the clock and we're at almost 2.5 hours, and that's a long thing, but but I don't care. Right? Yeah. Because like, I'm doing this because I enjoy it. I'm doing this because, again, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about things that you're passionate about, and to even talk about some challenging and difficult things. I'm sure, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure that like having that Ren conversation right now was not a fun, enjoyable thing to like think about and go back and like talk about, but it's something that I feel like needs to be talked about. The parasocial side of the internet is becoming very, very difficult to deal with. And especially for people like me who like, I am very sensitive. I am very emotional. I do feel strongly. It's hard sometimes, and I've made mistakes, and I'm going to make them again. I'm probably going to say some things that are going to piss people off, and I'm probably going to say some things that are going to save people's lives. There's a balance to it. There's an ebb and flow. It's the dark side. It's the good side. It's everything. And that's what being human is.
Yeah. I just like want to take a second too, because like I owe so much to the Ren community, because again, I've met some of the greatest people through it, and it's not a slight at the whole community as to why the train stopped. It is those few bad apples that cannot separate the artist and real life, and how genuinely that artist comes to play in their life. Because here's the thing, Youngblood actually said something very interesting recently, where the whole cliche of like saying an artist saved their life. Like, no, the music's the soundtrack, man. Like, and a lot of people do not have that separation, and that does procreate toxic fandom, and it ruins a lot of good things. And I just want to say that I'm not ungrateful by any fucking means. And to everybody that is still watching after the whole spiel that apparently went around during this Ren group that got brought to my attention all over again, and I'm not ungrateful. It is not a slight, but no, I felt like it needed to be talked about, because you do have a lot of renegades in your channel, just like I have thousands in mine. I experienced the same very big jolt in my channel overnight, the way you did, the same organic way, which is why it's honestly kind of cool to see it happen all over again for somebody else, because especially somebody so deserving.
Thank you, man.
It's not a slight. It's just, you got to take a second. You got to take a second and remember that people do have opinions. It may not be ones that you agree with, but it is never a slight towards the artist. Everything that I've ever reacted to, I've loved. Everything has always been genuine. Just be kinder, Just be kinder.
And that's the reason why I think you and I hit it off so much, is just like, I can feel that authenticity from you. I can feel that genuine like desire for connection and for having real conversations and talking about shit that like maybe is a little uncomfortable at times. And but then but we also talked about you crying to animated character jizzing. So like there's what I mean? Like there's a balance to it all, and I love that. And I want to close this by just having a little bit of fun. So I'm going to do like 5 rapid fire questions. Oh, shit. And I just want you to give me like the first thing that pops into your head.
Fuck. Okay. Let's go.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be, even if it's like not your actual answer. I just want to like hear like your favorite thing with this. So favorite movie, go.
Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Favorite TV show.
The Walking Dead.
Okay. Favorite album.
Fuck.
I haven't heard that album.
Sound of Madness by Shinedown.
Great choice. Okay. Favorite single person artist. So like just like one person, like an actual artist, not a band.
Single person artist. Fuck, dude, that is so hard. That is so fucking hard. I don't know if I could. Brent Smith, I have to.
Okay. And favorite band.
Favorite band of all time, Shinedown.
Okay.
That's a no-brainer.
Right.
No-brainer.
There it is.
That sucks, bro. That sucked so bad because I'm gonna rewatch this. I'm gonna fucking hate myself.
No,
oh,
that's
God.
I love it. Yeah. So, anyways, dude, this has been so much fun, and I know that we're gonna have a lot of other conversations like off camera, off the record or whatever. And I'm really looking forward to like the new stuff that you've got in the works. Thanks, real quick, just kind of for the people that are still here. Where can people find you, and what kind of stuff are you working on right now?
Oh, that's the fun part. Okay, so you can find me in the same handles for every social media minus TikTok. It's still the Lone Rager there. I'm not on TikTok. I don't even scroll on TikTok. I don't even know why I have the app on my phone. But RageCxrcus everywhere else. I do have a merch store, the Rageaholics Warehouse, which is obviously in all my descriptions. It's done pretty well success-wise. And in terms of what I'm doing, I have a lot of concerts with Better Noise Music coming up. I'm going to see Nothing More again. I'm working on hopefully seeing Asking Alexandria and Chevelle for the first time.
Chevelle puts on such a good show.
Yeah, dude, I'm fucking.
I saw them with
one band I haven't seen.
I saw them with 3 Days Grace and Adelita's Way in 2010, and it was such a good show.
Fuck yeah. In terms of what I'm doing content-wise, so I was going to keep it kind of under wraps, but at the same time... If
we get breaking news?
We do. So I am in the process of setting up a podcast / interview with Lee Jennings, the lead singer of The Funeral Portrait, coming out on my channel soon.
Oh, shit. That's sick, dude.
Yeah, Lee Jennings is literally The Funeral Portrait. I actually just got back from the show Sunday via Better Noise Music, so thank you again for the hookup.
Yeah.
I can say that band is 100% the new My Chemical Romance. So, like, they are 100% like emo core and just anthematic music is safe in the hands of The Funeral Portrait. They are phenomenal performers. I will say that Lee Jennings is one of the most talented human beings in terms of not only just lyrical songwriting, but also performance-wise. His voice is incredible. He has the range of fucking Jesus himself. There's some parts in there that I'm like, dude, I can
Jesus and Fergie.
Yeah, perfect fucking combination of Jesus and Fergie, bro. The songbird of my generation, like that. Yeah, dude. It is. Yeah, it's a time to be alive, 100%. So I'm really, really excited about those things. I have a movie kind of universe in the works with Kyle Wright from Riker Road. And so other than that, I have nothing else going on. But thank you so much for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to put all of your links down in the description below. So if you guys aren't following Ben, if you're not following RageCxrcus, make sure you go do that. I've checked out his merch. I actually have shit in my cart that I haven't been able to get yet, but it's sick. Like the stuff that you've got in there, it's super cool.
Appreciate it.
And you guys should all go check that out. And I'm sure this is not going to be the last time that you guys are going to see the two of us in something together. But Ben, thank you so much for being my pilot guest. You're the first one on this. And I have a feeling that you're setting a record that's going to be very hard to break at almost 2.5 hours. And I love that.
Thank you so much.
I love that. Absolutely. So as I always say on my episodes, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button, click that little bell so you'll get notified when I drop a new video. Make sure to follow me on socials at ATDmusic on TikTok and on Twitch and on here on Instagram and the threads at ATD Reacts and on Facebook at ATD Official. I have a song that came out a few weeks ago called Bones, which is streaming on all platforms. You guys can find that in the description below. And I'll see you guys back here for the next one.